The last thing they would expect is to find a suitcase with a human body in it.
The big question is, how the hell did he get there?
They were crazy in love at first, but it quickly became tumultuous. There were infidelities. They'd go back and forth. They'd fight. I think they liked the drama of it.
And the next thing coming out of his mouth is, when I get home, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to smash your face in. He said he was leaving and he wasn't coming back.
Were you ever angry enough to want to see him dead?
There were times I wanted him gone, but gone doesn't mean dead.
And Mel just said, well, I'm a single mom now, and now I've just got to get on with my life. I said, well, no, the next thing is we've got to figure out who did this to him. And after I got off the phone, I said, she did it.
They couldn't find any forensic evidence whatsoever to establish that this was a crime scene.
Do you still insist that you're innocent?
Absolutely. I still feel like, how could somebody think that I did that?
I think she did not actually commit the crime.
It turns out it isn't the end of this story.
My name is Megan Sachs. I'm a criminologist at Fairleigh Dickinson University. In simplest terms, criminology is the scientific study of what causes crime and how the criminal justice system responds to crime.
I've written about 25 true crime books over the years, and I think Melanie Maguire's is perhaps one of the most interesting ones and baffling.
This is Melanie Maguire, arrested today minutes after dropping off her children at daycare.
Melanie Maguire, a New Jersey nurse, was accused of killing her husband, cutting up his body and throwing it into the Chesapeake Bay.
In 2007, what was being called the suitcase murder trial was generating an enormous amount of media attention, not just in New Jersey, but all across the country.
3 bizarre discoveries, 3 separate suitcases, all containing human remains.
The woman who was on trial for her very life. She says the real truth behind the crime has never been revealed.
With no history of violence and no apparent motive for murder, could she really have done it?
She was this beautiful young nurse, and they were this seemingly normal middle-class couple, and the murder happened in such a grisly way.
The idea that this beautiful nurse could have actually killed her husband and then cut him up is just incredible.
Of course, there were the salacious aspects.
Mrs. Maguire is a registered nurse, and prosecutors say she had an affair with a doctor.
She didn't fit the profile, I guess, of a murderer.
Over the years, students and colleagues of ours have come to me and said, you know, Melanie Maguire proclaims her innocence and would love to tell her story.
I started thinking, oh, maybe there is a little more to this case than what you just see on the surface. And then the idea of a podcast came up, and I was all in.
On direct appeal, we examined the murder conviction of Melanie Maguire following a highly publicized trial. Looking at the evidence that was presented and the evidence that may have seemed insignificant at the time, we form our own conclusion about Melanie's guilt.
We here at ABC have our own history with the Melanie Maguire case. Back in 2007, ABC's Cynthia McFadden had the first on-camera interview with the mother of 2 on trial for murdering her husband.
Who is the Melanie Maguire you hope the jury knows?
The one who tried to take care of everybody, who didn't make the smartest decisions, but admitted to those mistakes to the people she trusted most, but did not admit what she's accused of. I have been incarcerated for 12 and a half, going on 13 years now.
Do you still insist that you're innocent?
Absolutely.
You're sitting here a wrongfully convicted person.
Correct. Absolutely.
And what have those years been like?
I tell people it's not as bad as you think in some ways, and it's so much worse than I could ever articulate in others. After all these years, I still feel hurt. I still feel bothered. I still feel like, how could somebody think that I did that?
This whole saga begins on May 5th, 2004, with an odd discovery in Virginia Beach.
Early morning, a couple of fishermen and their kids are out on a boat by the Chesapeake Bay.
Me and my friend Don Connors was going to go out fishing, and we both had days off, and D, or Don, we called him D, he said keep his kids out of school, we're going to take them fishing. So everybody was excited. We went right out through this bridge here, and if you keep on going, you'll run right into the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel.
The Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel is about 17.5 miles long. It really is quite astonishing. It connects the eastern shore of Virginia to Virginia Beach.
Has 2 tunnels for 2 shipping channels, and once you get on the other side, you go north, you're up into Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey. So we went out there and anchored off of Fisherman's Island, and we were just doing some fishing.
And suddenly, one notices that a suitcase has floated by.
We wheeled the boat around, pulled up alongside it. I immediately thought it probably blew off of a car, you know, and off the luggage rack or something. D and his son had reached over and were trying to pull it up in. It had some weight to it, so I stopped the boat, reached in and helped him pull that thing up in there, and laid it in the floor of the boat.
They found a dark green Kenneth Cole suitcase in pretty good condition that was apparently part of a luggage set of 3.
They put it on board, and the little boy with them is very, very excited. He thinks it's buried treasure, so he wants to open it.
The contents were covered with a thick trash bag, like a hefty bag or something. And I said, uh-oh. I was a little bit nervous then when I saw the black bags in there. So it's a turn to say something to D, and while I was talking to D, the young boy reached down and ripped open the plastic trash bags. There was no doubt of what it was. It's a set of human legs.
There's a pair of male legs from the knee down, look very fresh, and they recoil in horror.
I looked down there and said, oh my gracious. So I closed the bag back up, and I dialed 911.
I was out on patrol in the Chesapeake Bay when I received a radio call. I made arrangements with him to meet me, and he transferred a suitcase over to my boat.
I handed him the luggage, and he seemed surprised. He goes, what do you want me to do with that? And I said, open it up.
I was pretty shocked. I'd never seen a suitcase with body parts in it before. There really wasn't any smell. They actually looked kind of fresh.
The first suitcase being found was big news. It's not, a common find by any means, especially in this area.
This is an alarming story. Everybody wanted to know who the man in the suitcase was.
We kind of figured there had to be other suitcases with other parts in it.
After the initial shock of them finding the suitcase, everyone was just waiting for what was going to wash up next. The Chesapeake Bay area, there's a lot of boaters, there are bird watchers, there's Fisherman's Island, a nature sanctuary. This is really kind of a tourist, a fun area.
People are going there to relax, they're going with their families. The last thing they would expect is to find a suitcase with a human body in it.
It was the start of the summer tourist season, which is huge for Virginia Beach, and getting that kind of negative publicity of bodies washing up in suitcases was something they did not need. 6 days later, the student was on Fisherman's Island in the middle of the Chesapeake Bay, which is a nature preserve. And she saw a dark green Kenneth Cole suitcase.
She was curious what could be contained inside, and she actually pulled a little bit of the black trash bag out of the suitcase. There was such a strong odor of decomposition that she immediately stopped and notified the rescue. Huge workers.
The police, they've been expecting this because after the first Kenneth Cole bag with the legs, they suspected there was going to be more.
It was transported to the medical examiner's office in Norfolk, and that's where we actually viewed what the contents inside.
Inside this suitcase would be the torso and the head of a male. The torso is still attached with the arms and the head.
The head was wrapped in what looked like a medical blanket.
The face was somewhat identifiable, but it had been submerged for a while, so extremely bloated.
The medical examiner is able to determine that the victim's been shot multiple times. There are a couple of gunshot wounds in the torso area and one through the head.
There were 2 bullets that were recovered from the body, wad cutter bullets. And wad cutter bullets are not typically used by the average person, but they are used for target practice.
And it became a very big local story.
A student discovered a suitcase near Fisherman Island. Inside, a human head.
It's getting a lot of coverage.
It's the second suitcase in a week found near the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel, and the second one containing body parts.
And everybody was waiting for the rest of the body to turn up.
Well, the third suitcase was found on May 16, 2004, in the water by a fisherman.
He saw the suitcase floating in the water. This third suitcase that had been in the water the longest did have some growth on it from floating in the water for so long.
This suitcase contained the pelvis, so from the waist down to above the knees. Authorities realize they have to figure out who it is.
Anytime you find a known body, the first thing you're going to do is look into missing person cases to see if the profile matches anyone who's currently missing.
Because of the naval bases in the area, they're checking military records. They're checking everything they can possibly think of to figure out who this person is.
One of the policemen working on it came up with the idea of getting a sketch artist in.
I immediately took photographs to our sketch artist, and she was able to do a sketch for us, and we eventually released it to the media.
We're hoping maybe this will give us an edge and maybe identify him sooner.
Right now, he's just
John Doe.
May the 21st, Sue sees the picture on TV of a sketch that they had done to find out who this person was.
Sue had been getting out of the shower one morning. The television was on, and as she was getting out, toweling off, she looks at the TV.
This is a sketch of the body that washed ashore near the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel this month.
He belongs to somebody. I mean, he's got loved ones.
She thinks, oh my God, that looks like Bill.
Sue was pretty sure that it was Bill McGuire. This is John and Sue Rice, Bill McGuire's good friends. Bill and John had been friends since their early Navy days. Bill was friends with Sue as well. Melanie knew Sue. The couples had vacationed together.
Sue immediately calls her husband to take a look, and he's not so sure it's Bill. But Sue's convinced it is, in fact, and says, please call Crime Stoppers.
He was very good friends with Mr. McGuire. He told me that Mr. McGuire lived in Woodbridge, New Jersey. He was married to Melanie McGuire, and they had 2 small children.
He wanted to know more about the dynamics of Bill, why I thought it could be Bill. And the only way that I thought it could be Bill is that, yeah, he's missing too.
John Rice had spoke to Cindy Lagash, who is William McGuire's sister.
I got a call from Cindy. She said, John, is Billy there? And I said, no, he's not. What's going on? And she said, well, Bill and Melanie got in an argument and he left and he hadn't been heard from.
He said he was leaving and he wasn't coming back. My husband was full of bluster when it came to stuff like that. He would say things like that all the time. I didn't actually believe it was the last time I was ever going to see my husband.
William McGuire had, in fact, vanished. Mr. Rice and his wife, Mrs. Rice, eventually agreed to come down to the police department in Virginia Beach and view some photos.
Bill had a little red mark right here, and that's what I kept zoning in on when I saw the picture. That's exactly what I zoned in on. I mean, I've known Bill for 22 years. I kept seeing that, and I was pretty certain that it was Bill.
Once we had a name and approximate age, we ran him through our computer system.
He ran a check on Bill McGuire, and he found that McGuire had been arrested in Virginia for a reckless driving charge in the 1980s.
His fingerprints were on file already, which made it a lot easier. And there very quickly able to confirm that the fingerprints matched.
The man in the suitcases was identified as 39-year-old William McGuire of Woodbridge, New Jersey.
So according to Melanie, she just thinks her husband is missing. But she is about to get the news that will change her life forever.
And I said, I'm sorry to tell you, ma'am, that William is deceased. And I just burst into tears.
Now they've solved the mystery of who the man in the suitcase is. The big question is, how the hell did he get there? The Melanie McGuire story is centered around New Jersey. They lived in the working class part of New Jersey where The Sopranos took place, which was perhaps the hottest show at the time.
Melanie is a Jersey girl, born and raised there. Her parents are Linda and Michael Caporero.
She's a great, great daughter, mother, friend, full of life, fun-loving, a good girl, never in trouble, never in trouble.
Always trying to help people.
She's working in the restaurants in Jersey. She's a waitress, and she met Bill McGuire. He was also a server.
Bill was known as the rude waiter because he would speed people up in a jocular way, but they loved it, and he would ask for the rude waiter.
What was he like?
Funny, clever. He had a big heart when he wanted to. He wanted all the right things.
He was very, very loyal. He was a tremendous friend. When I first met Bill, I didn't know what to make of him because he was really a practical joker and whatnot, and I thought, well, this guy could probably get on somebody's nerves with all this. But he was so funny, he just kind of overcame whatever resistance you might have to him.
Melanie was a fertility nurse when I met her. Just so caring, so nurturing.
She was working with women who were going through really tough times, trying to get pregnant. She was very compassionate, and her patients really loved her.
What made you a good nurse?
Type A personality. The way I looked at it, I was not going to be happy with anything less than the total comfort level of my patients.
In 1998, Bill called John and I and told us that he wanted to bring Melanie down to meet us. Melanie, she's a really nice person to be around. Physically, she's beautiful. She's very smart.
She had a lot of the same sense of humor that Bill had. When Bill was making jokes, Melanie would be right in there.
He liked to razz people. She would razz him right back. He really was crazy about her.
What was your relationship with Bill like in the beginning?
In the beginning, it was the challenge, it was the chase. It was, we had a bit of a tempestuous relationship even before we got married. We would break up, get back together.
Bill and Melanie dated for quite a while. They were crazy in love at first, but it quickly became tumultuous. There were infidelities. They'd go back and forth. They'd fight. I think they liked the drama of it.
I think she thought she could make a difference in his life. I think she thought that she could maybe change him, make him happy. She truly did love him.
You guys want some more champagne? All right, let me go get a bottle. Because there's nothing in there, is there?
They got married in 1999. It was probably one of the most extravagant weddings we've ever been to.
Mr. and Mrs. William McGuire. Melanie on her wedding day looked absolutely gorgeous, angelic, just perfect.
Both Bill and Melanie seemed like they couldn't have been happier.
She was a little body.
He was marrying a girl that he absolutely loved in a way that maybe he hadn't loved anybody before.
Bill, did you put your hands on? This is the last time Bill's going to have the upper hand.
Bill McGuire got a $65,000 a year job with the New Jersey Institute of Technology.
Bill and Melanie settle into a rented townhouse in Woodbridge, New Jersey.
Woodbridge is a sprawling, densely populated township on the suburban end of New Jersey's industrial flatlands. If you're going down I-95, you're taking exit 11 to get off to Woodbridge.
We were both happy, new parents, and then things changed drastically.
He had a dual personality. He could be very likable, and then on the other hand, he'd be very calculating, manipulate you.
And he had always had issues with gambling, and he would go through periods where he would go down to Atlantic City a lot.
There were times that he would just take off to AC and gamble, and you wouldn't hear from him, wouldn't know what was going on.
He found he could make some money gambling. There were good times with that, and there were bad times. And there were a couple of times I put my foot down, and I said, that's it, no more. So then he would get involved in the stock market. He wanted what he wanted, and he couldn't get it fast enough. And with that came frustration, and eventually that frustration became directed at me. There was one particular argument over the phone where he had gotten stopped for a traffic ticket. He had an absolutely atrocious driving record. So I started to argue back, and the next thing coming out of his mouth is, when I get home, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to smash your face in.
It's very difficult for me to think back on it because I actually drove off in the middle of the night, and I had left and I should have stayed gone.
Why did you stay?
I wasn't strong enough to leave.
Did you love him?
I did, and even though, now at this point, bear in mind, I'm having an affair.
What appealed to you about Brad Miller?
He was just very, very tender. I really tried to fight it, but I couldn't fight it.
Life for the McGuires is getting a little more complicated, and then one night, it all erupts.
Bill was probably the most streetwise person I've ever known, and I can tell you he never saw it coming.
Melanie is loving, caring, funny, considerate. We just clicked right away, to the point that I asked her to be in my wedding when I got married.
Love is always patient and kind. It is never jealous. Love is never boastful or conceited, and is not resentful. Love takes no pleasure in other people's sins, but delights in the truth.
In June 2001, the McGuires were already married for a few years. And even though there was some friction in the marriage, Melanie McGuire decided to have another child.
Little does her husband know just how ill-timed this pregnancy is. Not only is Melanie about to have their second child, she's also having an affair.
Dr. Bradley Miller was a partner in RMA Associates, and Melanie was working as one of his nurses.
He was so kind. I'd come back to my desk after a long meeting with a patient, and there'd be lunch sitting on my desk waiting for me. You know, there was always a little bit of flirtation, banter back and forth.
Melanie was about 38 weeks pregnant, and things changed between her and Dr. Miller.
I was about to go out on maternity leave, and I was sitting actually in his office at his desk. I just mentioned I have a pinched nerve in my neck, and he put his hands on my shoulders and started to rub my back. I really tried to fight it because this was not going to be good. This was not going to be good for anybody, but I couldn't fight it.
After Melanie came back from maternity leave, she and Dr. Miller started a full-blown affair, and it seemed like they were falling in love with each other, although they were both married with young children.
Shortly after my second son was born, that's when things began the final descent downhill, if you will.
Melanie and Bill moved to the Woodbridge apartment. This is a townhome. They don't own it, they're renting it.
He was constantly looking at homes. He wanted to end up buying a house before he turned 40.
He did want to move down here to Virginia Beach. We took pictures of houses in our neighborhood, but Melanie just would not hear of it.
They ended up putting a really sizable deposit down on a very nice home in New Jersey.
It was a very nice house. It had quite a bit of land. It was a $500,000 home.
It was very contradictory. She's becoming closer to Dr. Miller, but she's going along with Bill's idea of buying a house.
The marriage wasn't going well at all. So why were you buying this $500,000 house together then?
The idea for me was we had a chunk of money, cash, that we were putting down on this house. In the past, we'd come to points where we had been in similar situations, and he would, ultimately something would happen and he would go and gamble the money away. I figured this at least was an investment.
On April 28th, they're due to close on the house at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and she's in constant touch with Dr. Miller, who's pleading with her not to buy the house. He wants to be with Melanie, and he sees a future life with her.
And Melanie told him that, not to worry about it. It's going to be okay. I'll take care of it.
After they close on the house, they go back to their rented townhouse. Bill is so excited. He calls John Rice. John said that Bill had never been happier. The last person Melanie speaks to that night is Dr. Miller. She tells him, look, we've closed on the house. Bill's had some red wine. He's asleep on the couch, but when he wakes up, we're going to sort this out, and I'm going to tell him I want a divorce.
Melanie described the events that would happen later on as a big fight.
You and Bill had a horrible fight, yes?
Correct. We fell asleep on the couch, woke up early morning hours, and it was never a bad time for an argument. We're talking probably 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. And it starts on the house. I settled for that house. The hell are you talking about? You settled for that house. It's a $500,000 house. That's not what I wanted.
Melanie says that Bill turned around and said, what I really wanted was a house in Virginia for cheaper, but you refused to let us do that, and so I have to settle. And she says this turns into a very heated argument.
From there, things became more physical.
How physical? In what way?
He shoved a dryer sheet in my mouth. He had a thing about dryer sheets.
The story that Melanie tells about a fight that seems to escalate over a dryer sheet is the same story she told us back when we first spoke with her.
We're still arguing, and there's the laundry basket, and there's a dryer sheet just hanging out of one of the baby's sleeves. He hated them. He thought it was lazy that I wouldn't stand there and put in the liquid fabric softener, and yeah. And it went out of control. This was the type of mother I was, that I would leave this sheet in there for my baby to possibly choke on. Before I know it, I'm up against the wall, and the dryer sheet is being shoved into my throat. And then he just smacked me.
In the face?
Yeah, open hand, because he probably would have broken my cheek if it had been a closed fist. And I looked down, and there's my 2-year-old.
I grabbed the baby and went to the bathroom right behind me and shut the door. I just wanted away from him at that point. He said he was leaving and he wasn't coming back, and I could tell my children why they didn't have a father.
Did he say this to you through the bathroom door?
Yeah, through the bathroom door the entire time. I imagine he was packing things and leaving. He was up and down the stairs a lot, but every trip back and forth berating me.
What's the last thing you remember saying to him?
Stop. Stop.
Melanie said he'd driven off, and she presumed he was in Atlantic City.
He would have been back. He would have been back. I knew it.
But this isn't just a few days that Bill McGuire is gone. We're talking weeks.
What bothered me was that Melanie never reached out and said, hey, Bill's missing.
She never reported her husband missing, and it's almost 30 days.
The fact that we never heard anything from her was deeply suspicious to me.
Love is always ready to excuse, to trust, to hope, and to endure whatever comes. Love does not come to an end. This is the word of the Lord.
In the early morning hours of April 29, 2004, Melanie McGuire said that she and her husband Bill had a violent fight and that he left and she never saw him again.
Melanie says the next day she got her kids up, she took them to daycare, and she started trying to figure out how she was going to move on with her life without Bill.
And during the next day, the day after that, you didn't hear anything from him?
No.
Did you try calling him directly?
No, because this is what used to happen when we fought. You know, I'd call, whether it was to tell him off or to try to apologize or what, we just end up getting back into it again. I'm done now. I'm done.
She retains a divorce attorney, and at this point, she does tell the divorce attorney that she has not seen her husband in a few days. And according to Melanie, the attorney advised her not to file a missing persons report.
My heart broke for her. She didn't deserve, nobody deserved that. But I told her that, you know, she needed to think about herself right now. She needs to protect herself.
I called a business associate of mine who was an attorney. She said, you need to get a restraining order.
State your full name.
Melanie Lynn McGuire.
She had to go in front of a judge and give sworn statement about the incident that happened.
Tell me what happened that brought you to court today for a temporary restraining order? My husband and I closed on our first house on Wednesday. That should be a positive thing, shouldn't it? Yeah, it should. He's been behaving really erratically. Ms. McGuire, you're safe here. Don't worry.
Melanie explained to the judge how Bill had been violent with her.
Did he hit you, ma'am? No, not until, well, I don't mean to sound like I had absolutely no part in this. I said some not nice things and slapped me.
As part of the questions, Melanie was asked by the judge if she owned any firearms.
Do you know if there's any weapons? Not to my knowledge.
This is a sketch of the body that washed ashore near the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel this month.
We're hoping maybe this will give us an edge and maybe identify him sooner.
About a month goes by between the time that Bill disappears and when Sue Rice identifies Bill McGuire after seeing the sketch on local TV. The next thing police have to do is notify Melanie McGuire of the death of her husband.
Melanie was asked to come down to the police station.
The officer came out and he says, "Is your husband William McGuire?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "I'm sorry to tell you, ma'am, that William is deceased." And I just burst into tears.
But there's one thing she never asked. How was Bill McGuire murdered?
They did not tell her how and the condition in which he was found.
That would be one of the first questions that I would ask.
The next step was that the Virginia police wanted to speak with Melanie. Melanie agrees, but she brings her divorce attorney with her and another criminal attorney in that practice.
Conducting an interview with the victim's wife with two attorneys present is highly unusual. First time I have ever had that happen to me. She was nervous, she was visibly shaking, she made expressions like she was crying, but she never had a tear in her eye. I asked her if she had any luggage, and she informed us that they didn't have any matching luggage.
The next day, Melanie told detectives she suddenly remembered that the McGuires did own a matching set of designer luggage.
I showed her a picture of one of the pieces of luggage that we recovered in the bay, and she identified that as belonging to them.
They asked what kind of person Bill was, and she said he was the kind of person that had a knack for pissing people off.
She asked us, where did we find her husband's vehicle at? I told her at that point we hadn't found her husband's vehicle. And she said that probably a good place to look would be Atlantic City, New Jersey. She also informed us that her husband had a gambling problem.
Did he get involved with the wrong people? That's what I would have to believe, that he had gotten himself into something, and Bill always thought he could handle everything.
He was always into some kind of a deal, so I think maybe this deal was his last deal.
After the interview was done that evening, we also conducted a search at their old apartment building. The apartment was empty. She had already moved out.
They asked him about Bill's possessions and his clothes.
We discovered that Miss McGuire had already given all of her husband's belongings away.
Virginia Beach detectives find out that Melanie McGuire had given most of Bill's belongings away to a friend's cousin, and they wanted to track that man down. Eventually they did and found out that most of Bill's clothing was still in black trash bags, much like the bags that contained Bill McGuire's body parts.
The garbage bag, by sight, looked identical.
Things are starting to make sense with the detectives. There's black trash bags, and there was also the hospital blanket that the head was wrapped into. And they're thinking, well, Melanie McGuire is a nurse. That's kind of an odd coincidence.
At Melanie's suggestion, detectives start to search Atlantic City for Bill's car. And lo and behold, that's exactly where they find it.
The Atlantic City forensic unit processed Mr. McGuire's vehicle. They took photos, they fingerprinted, they vacuum cleaned the floorboards.
The body was released to Melanie on a Tuesday. Immediately she had him cremated. And the funeral lasted all of 10-15 minutes at the most. She called the following evening after the funeral, and at that point I just kind of blasted her. I just told her, I said, Melanie, Bill deserves so much more. And Mel just said, well, I'm a single mom now, and now I've just got to get on with my life. I said, well, no, the next thing is we've got to figure out who did this to him. And after I got off the phone, I remember hanging it up, and I said, John, she did it. She did it.
Everything pointed to Melanie McGuire.
Through wiretapping her phones, the police discovered the relationship that she was having with Dr. Miller.
It's a eureka moment because it provides motive.
I've told them everything that I know. But they're, they just don't.
They want you to break.
What's the last thing you remember saying to him?
Stop. Stop.
People like to believe that someone was capable of committing this type of murder.
Accused of cutting up his body and throwing it into the Chesapeake Bay.
That the person who did that would look like a monster. But sometimes killers look just like Melanie McGuire.
Is there anything else you're not telling me? Like what? Like I killed my husband? Did you? No. Thanks for asking.
A scorched earth investigation was conducted, and the lack of evidence is resounding.
The evidence in this case points to a well-organized, meticulously planned execution of a murder.
Computer searches that said how to murder someone, how to poison someone. Basically, multiple searches about how you kill someone.
I don't get to be an evil genius and an idiot at the same time.
I believe that Melanie was wrongfully convicted.
Who do you think killed your husband?
Melanie McGuire, once a married mother to 2 little boys and a fertility nurse, is today a 47-year-old inmate at the Edna Mann Correctional Facility in Clinton, New Jersey.
In here, guilt and innocence is irrelevant in day-to-day life. I have 6 numbers and a letter after my name, the same as the woman on one side of me and the same as the woman on the other side of me.
After Virginia Beach exhausted their investigation, they realized all signs pointed north to New Jersey.
My name is Patty Prezioso. I was the lead investigator in the Melanie McGuire investigation and prosecution.
Patty Prezioso was a very driven and highly successful Assistant Attorney General in New Jersey.
You let the evidence guide you and you follow it until it's clear what happened.
She was extremely competent, and it was obvious.
The task force had local police, state police, the Attorney General's office. They decided to treat this case with top priority.
It was clear that he had been shot, and trying to find out if any of the people close to Bill owned a gun was a top priority.
The detectives don't find any record of Melanie buying a gun in New Jersey, so they decide to check Pennsylvania.
They knew that Pennsylvania was close, and a lot of people will go to Pennsylvania for firearms because the gun laws are more lax. There's less of a waiting period, and so you can go in and essentially walk out the same day with a firearm.
It turned out that when the record check was done with Pennsylvania, a record came back that Melanie McGuire had purchased a gun.
I remember plain as day when she came in, because not many women come into the shop. She filled the forms out, and then when she wrote down her occupation, that she was a nurse, that stuck in my mind, because I guess that was the first time I ever sold a gun, to a nurse.
Melanie bought a Taurus 38 Special, and she bought wad cutter bullets.
And that gun was purchased just 2 days before Melanie McGuire said her husband went missing.
And remember, early on, Virginia detectives talked to Melanie, and she never mentioned anything to them about buying a gun.
I had informed my attorneys of the purchase of the gun, and they said, well, if they ask, don't lie, but don't offer any information. And they never asked about a gun.
Melanie bought the gun because Bill wanted her to buy the gun. She could get it, he wanted it. What he wanted, he got.
Because Bill McGuire had a felony conviction stemming from his horrendous driving record, he was barred from purchasing firearms.
You say your husband asked you to purchase the gun, but you purchased a gun just 2 days before your husband went missing.
Of course, it's a coincidence. However, he was on me for a while about that, about trying to get that. And if something was happening, if he was in some sort of trouble, that may very well have been the reason why he was so intent on getting it.
Once the police really honed in on Melanie, they began wiretapping her phones.
Hello. Hi.
The surveillance was so intense that over a 40-day period, they recorded 500 hours of her phone calls.
Every time you get your head back above water. Yep. And that hand reaches out from beyond the grave.
A lot of those calls were very cryptic.
Hey.
How you doing? I spoke to, what's his name, about shipping?
Alex.
I didn't want to say name. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yep.
She used the phrase a lot, being cut off at the knees.
At least meet with a lawyer ahead of time who might cut it off at the knees.
Doesn't that look suspicious?
It doesn't matter what it looks like.
She was a little salty. That was her personality, though. She was a Jersey girl.
A lot of them were to her boyfriend, Dr. Bradley Miller.
It was very clear right from the beginning that the relationship with Dr. Miller was different. There was a change in her voice. It was a softer tone.
It's a eureka moment when they realize that she's having an affair because it provides motive. Dr. Miller also becomes a suspect. So one night when Dr. Miller was leaving work, he was going to his car. The detectives came out to confront him.
Dr. Miller was adamant that he had nothing to do with any crime and he didn't know anything about this. And so I think the police said, well, prove it. If you're willing to wear a wire, we'll believe you.
It is now 2:30 p.m., May 31st, 2005. Brad Miller making an outgoing call to Melanie McGuire.
Hello?
What's up? I've told them everything that I know. But they just don't.
They want you to break.
I mean, if you want us to stick together, I gotta know everything now. Before this goes any further.
What do you mean you have to know everything now?
I mean, there's no other secrets between us, right?
That I can think of.
You swear you had nothing to do with us?
Yeah.
And your children's lives. I'm standing by you.
In those intercepted phone calls, another friend she was speaking to was Jim Finn.
Melanie met Jim Finn in nursing school, and Jim admittedly had a crush on Melanie.
But once she left nursing school, she never talked to him again. You know, that was it until February 2004, and she suddenly got in touch with him again.
When she needed something, he was someone that, you know, she could manipulate, and she knew he was a lover of guns.
The police also approach Jim Finn because they find that before Bill disappeared, she's been talking to him about the firearms.
She said to him, hey, I need to talk to you. There's some weird stuff going on here, and Bill is acting weird.
Jim, who really still holds the torch for Melanie, and Melanie knows that, says, well, maybe you should get a gun to defend yourself.
Investigators pick up Jim Finn, who also allows them to record his conversations with Melanie. And once they hear what's on those calls, they're satisfied Finn knew nothing about the murder.
The reason I asked you about buying a gun is because my husband wanted one. He wanted one? Yeah. Not only did he want one, I bought one for him. Why didn't you tell me?
At the time the detective spoke to Jim Finn, he had no idea that Melanie McGuire had purchased a gun. He was surprised.
Is there anything else you're not telling me? Like what? Like I killed my husband. Did you? No. But thanks for asking.
Melanie never wavers on whether or not she was involved. It is always a hard no.
I want you to tell me the truth. I'm telling you the truth. I did not do it.
She was under a microscope. Everything she did was being watched. Everything she said was being listened to.
Melanie does something that most people would find a little suspicious.
Investigators start looking at her E-ZPass records. They notice trips to Atlantic City.
She knew that Bill McGuire's car was in Atlantic City because she put it there. That requires 2 drivers. So that means someone helped her.
What investigators find in Atlantic City has them wondering, did Melanie have an accomplice? And if so, who was it? The next set of clues in the mystery of who killed Bill McGuire leads investigators to a 170-mile stretch of toll road, the Garden State Parkway. With Melanie now the prime suspect, detectives start pulling her records. They try to track her movements in the days around her husband's disappearance. And one of those is her E-ZPass statement.
So when investigators start looking at her E-ZPass records, they notice that there were charges for 2 trips to Atlantic City.
On April 30th, 2004, just 2 days after the fight Melanie said that she and Bill had, Melanie does something that is very odd and most people would find a little suspicious.
I'm starting to become more actively angry at him. And I'm thinking, that son of a bitch, I know where he is.
According to Melanie, she decides that he's probably in Atlantic City gambling, so she's going to drive down there and she's going to look for his car.
Absolutely not rational, but get in the car and go down there. And I'm driving down, and I take the first pass on this highway, and I see a dark sedan. There's no way. There's no way. And lo and behold, there it is.
Once Melanie spots Bill's car from the highway, she decides she's going to move his car. Melanie says in the past, when they're angry at each other, it's a way of messing with each other, I guess you could say.
Pull off onto a little side street, and I parked my car, and it was like Mission Impossible. Scooted up to the car, got in, started it, and drove away.
And where'd you put it?
What I believe to be the Flamingo Hotel.
What Melanie said was, I was going to move his car to the seediest part of town, the most annoying for him to find.
That just didn't make any sense, that he was physically abusive to her, but then she goes to mess with a car with a guy that she claims she doesn't want to be around.
It sounds beyond ridiculous sitting here saying it, and I acknowledge that, and I can't, you know, it's the truth.
It's an incredible story, meaning it's just not credible.
We believe she was planting his car in Atlantic City. She was trying to create an illusion that Bill McGuire was still alive. That requires two drivers. So certainly that means someone helped her. Someone had her Pathfinder, and she was driving Bill McGuire's car. They put the car at the Flamingo Hotel, and then she went home with the person driving her car.
And investigators thought they'd struck pay dirt when they discovered that hotel's parking lot had surveillance cameras.
In truth, of course, the footage did not capture who the driver was.
The surveillance video from the Flamingo Hotel actually showed the victim's vehicle being pulled into a parking space. Because of the darkness and the glare and the background lights, you could not actually see the person that was occupying the vehicle.
There was another inexplicable road trip, this time to Delaware, 5 days after her husband went missing.
She had shared with Dr. Miller that in the early morning hours of May 4th, she was actually furniture shopping.
Investigators think that this Delaware furniture trip is really just a ruse.
That same road would have taken her to the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel.
Normally, someone would take the New Jersey Turnpike to go over the Delaware Memorial Bridge, picking up Route 13, which runs south to the Chesapeake Bay Bridge and Tunnel.
Patty Precioso says that Melanie actually left the night before from New Jersey, drove Bill's remains to Virginia.
We believe that that was when she took the suitcases with Bill's remains and got rid of them in the Chesapeake Bay. And the first suitcase turned up the very next day.
But of course, Melanie thinks this theory is preposterous.
Virginia Beach is another 450 miles from Delaware. So, I mean, you're talking about hours, and there just isn't enough time.
And why would she drive all the way down to Chesapeake with the body parts in the car, thinking, I'm not going to get stopped, I'm not going to break down? What a chance that is. You know, I mean, you can't stop on a bridge and open a window and throw 3 suitcases out.
Maybe if it was one of these pieces of circumstantial evidence for which you might have a reasonable explanation for 1 or 2, but we're talking a large amount. You can't have reasonable explanations for all of them.
It's a mountain, and it's a lot of coincidences, and that's absolutely.
But coincidences don't always make for the best evidence. And detectives were still searching for any physical evidence that would link Melanie McGuire to her husband Bill's murder.
Where is the proof? Where is the forensic evidence?
The task force is convinced that Bill was murdered and dismembered at their townhouse in Woodbridge, so they concentrate on that.
They went back 4 to 5 times to search for any evidence.
They did everything that you would typically think of, right? They brought in the luminol, pulled down parts of the walls, they pulled out the piping, pulling floorboards up. They really turned this place upside down a number of times.
They were trying to find bullets, traces of blood, and nothing ever came up.
Couldn't find any forensic evidence whatsoever to establish that this was a crime scene.
I don't know how you would dismember a body and effectively clean that up.
Despite that glaring lack of physical evidence, investigators still believe the circumstantial evidence is enough, and they arrest Melanie McGuire.
So surreal. Day like any other, getting the kids off to daycare.
We surveilled her to the school, waited for her to drop her children off.
Walking out of the building, I'm not even off the curb. Melanie McGuire, can you come with us, please? I knew.
2 years and 10 months after the first suitcase washed up, the trial against Melanie McGuire commences in Middlesex County, and it was a sensation.
The evidence will show that while Bill was engrossed in purchasing the house, the defendant was very busy planning his death.
There was no proof that Melanie McGuire
murdered her husband. Prosecutor said either Melanie McGuire is guilty or she's the unluckiest woman in the world.
On Monday, March 5th, 2007, 2 years and 10 months after the first suitcase had washed up in the Chesapeake Bay, Melanie McGuire went on trial for her husband's first-degree murder.
This was a case that had garnered a lot of media attention in New Jersey. It had all the elements that it was going to be a salacious trial.
The judge let us know that the trial was going to be televised.
Let's bring a couple of experts into the conversation to help us sort through yesterday's evidence.
It made people act differently.
I think Melanie loved the idea that she was the center of attention.
She seemed very relaxed, much more relaxed than I would have been.
It was a double-edged sword, because if she sat there, you know, more stoic, she looked nasty or she looked mean. And then when she was being more upbeat and talking to people, oh, well, you know, she's joking around at her own trial. There was nothing she could do that wasn't going to be criticized.
By the time Melanie McGuire gets to trial, she's hired Stephen Turano and Joe Tacopina to represent her. Joe Tacopina was a high-profile celebrity attorney.
Joe Tacopina.
Joe Tacopina.
Joining me now, Joe Tacopina. He's the attorney for Alex Rodriguez.
He feels just as comfortable in front of a TV camera as in front of a jury.
A scorched earth investigation was conducted, and the lack of evidence is resounding.
The evidence in this case points to a well-organized, meticulously planned execution of a murder.
Is that a fair description of you? Were you somebody, if you were going to do something, you were going to do it all the way?
Correct. And I would counter that argument with, if that's the case, then I would have been sure to not include blankets that could be traced to me, my own luggage. I don't get to be an evil genius and an idiot at the same time.
They're not going to be able to tell you where William McGuire was killed, how he was killed, when he was killed.
The defense were really trying to play to the jury that Bill was a major gambler and he may have owed thousands and thousands of dollars.
He was a big gambler because he gambled beyond his means. When you have money out on the street and you're behind and you're not making payments, you know what happens? You get shot here and you get shot here.
As prosecutors start laying out what they believe Melanie McGuire did to Bill, it all starts with something they found in his car after it was processed in Atlantic City.
When investigators first recovered Bill's car, they found a bottle of chloral hydrate, a red liquid, and also a syringe in it.
State's Exhibit 983. Do you recognize that?
Yes, that's the vial we dispensed the liquid in.
Chloral hydrate is, have you ever heard the term slip somebody a Mickey? It's the Mickey. It's what it is. It's almost like a knockout drug.
They do a lot of investigating on this chloral hydrate, and eventually they find out that it was purchased the morning that Bill disappeared.
Somebody dropped off this prescription for chloral hydrate at the Walgreens pharmacy, which is just down the road from where Melanie's children went to preschool.
But the prescription pad was that of Dr. Brad Miller, who was Melanie's boss. So the light bulb goes off and they're thinking right away, clearly Melanie had access to this prescription pad. She used it, she filled it.
Chloral hydrate was necessary for this defendant to have control, and even more importantly, it was necessary to her that Bill McGuire had no control. Dr. Miller looked at the prescription and he said, "That's not my signature, and it appears to be Melanie McGuire's handwriting."
Prosecutors also focused on what they said Melanie was doing in the days before her husband's disappearance. For that, they looked at the McGuire's home computer.
We had it forensically examined, and it really was just astounding seeing what the internet searches were for. Can you describe the searches that you recovered?
How to purchase guns illegally, how to commit murder, and undetectable poisons was searched.
It didn't look good. It looked like someone was searching how to, sedate someone or how to kill them.
I'm a nurse. I was a nurse. And I don't need to look up things like that. If I wanted to look for something like that, I have a PDR, physician's desk reference. I have a book that I can look in that doesn't leave an internet history.
But both Melanie and Bill use this computer. So it's really hard to figure out who was searching these things.
Now, you have absolutely no idea of knowing who actually conducted the searches that you talked about, correct?
No, I don't.
One of the things we can say for certain is that your husband didn't commit suicide. He didn't shoot himself. He wasn't able to carve his own body up. And yet there's a suggestion from the defense that some of the online searches were things that he was in fact doing, not that you were doing.
It wasn't me.
Although investigators found no physical evidence in the McGuire's home, they did find something significant in Bill McGuire's car.
After Bill's car was recovered in Atlantic City, our criminalist was able to locate several pieces of small flesh. These pieces of flesh are an artifact of Bill McGuire's body being disarticulated. The phrase was used, human sawdust.
Human sawdust is a term that did not exist until this case, as I understand it.
I found particles that, to me, look like it could be possibly human tissue.
DNA results indicated that the flesh belonged to Bill McGuire.
What this really was a few pieces of microscopic skin cells that were a little bit deeper than the skin we passively shed.
Could those tissues, the tissue that you looked at, be shed from a live human being?
It cannot be shed from a live human being. It's not a typical shedding process at all.
Their theory was that this nurse, who was kind of so meticulous, had somehow just forgotten to wipe the bottom of her shoes, that she accidentally tracked these human sawdust particles of Bill's body from the house to the car.
Thank you, Your Honor. There were 81 witnesses in 7 weeks.
Good morning, Dr. Miller.
Good morning.
Dr. Miller was the testimony that everyone was most anticipating. He was going to be the big star of the trial.
I was having an affair, and my whole life turned upside down.
Were you in love with the defendant?
Do you want to call your next witness, please?
Yes, Your Honor. The state calls Dr. Bradley Miller.
The most anticipated day of this trial is when the man who Melanie McGuire had a 3-year affair with, Dr. Bradley Miller, took the stand.
Everybody knew that that was the prosecution's star witness, and the court was filled.
And when you saw him, what was your feeling?
How could you? How could you?
Dr. Miller was in a very difficult spot. He and his family had gone through a very difficult time, and it was just made clear to him, just take a deep breath and make sure you tell the absolute truth.
Can you describe to the jury what was your relationship with her?
We worked together. She was an excellent nurse. She took very good care of the patients. They all loved her.
Sir, did there come a time when your relationship with Miss McGuire got more intimate?
Yes, it did. It was towards the end of her second pregnancy. She was about 38 weeks pregnant. And before she went on maternity leave, we had oral sex in the office.
So not proud of that.
It has to be pretty hard to hear it come out in court.
Hard for me to hear it, hard for me to think, oh my God, my parents are hearing this, my 84-year-old grandmother is hearing this.
Were you in love with the defendant?
Yes, I was.
Had the two of you discussed future plans together?
Yes, we were hoping to be together in the future.
If we do make it through this, I'll just have to take whatever money I can get and get away.
With Dr. Miller on the stand, prosecutors were able to score some points because there were certain things that Melanie never told Dr. Miller.
Did the defendant ever tell you that she purchased a gun?
No, ma'am. I had no knowledge of her purchasing a gun, no.
Did the defendant ever tell you that she went to Atlantic City and parked her husband Bill's car at the Flamingo Hotel?
No, she did not.
Did there come a time when the defendant shared with you that she had done that?
Yes, and I asked her, well, why didn't you tell me this sooner? And she told me that she didn't want me to be upset, that she's going back to find Bill, to bring him back, and rekindle the relationship.
We looked very closely at Dr. Miller. There was no evidence connecting him with this crime.
This is in reference to consensual recordings between Brad Miller and Melanie McGuire.
You agreed to consensually record a conversation with the defendant.
Yes, I did.
Prosecutors really wanted the jury to hear those intercepted calls so they could get a sense that maybe her desire to be with him was the motive for the murder.
During the calls, Dr. Miller spoke about their future together, probably prompted by detectives.
After a divorce, and she gets half the money, I mean, it'd still be something to live on.
The understanding between us had always been that the children came first. And he starts talking about divorce and a future and moving forward, and I even say on the tape, why are you talking like this all of a sudden?
I'm confused because you've been the one to stress to me that we have to wait and see how everything plays out.
The defense was also able to score some points with those recordings, which called into question Dr. Miller's character.
At the time of those secret recordings, he was still having an intimate relationship with her.
After you tape recorded her, sir, you then had additional intimate relations with her, correct?
Yes, sir.
Did you tell her that, by the way, that you had tape recorded her?
No, I did not.
I think that was damaging to his character and was a very big turnoff to the jury.
Have you ever had contact again with Dr. Brad Miller?
No. No. After the day he testified, I haven't laid eyes on him since.
You have no desire?
It's tough. That was a tough betrayal to swallow.
What matters is whether the state, and the burden is on me and I welcome it, whether the state has proved each and every element beyond a reasonable doubt. When you combine the computer searches, the prescription for chloral hydrate on prescription pads that the defendant used, and then you have the victim found inside their matching luggage, the bullets consistent with the gun that she purchased.
It was a mountain of evidence. There's no question in my mind that she did it. I also don't believe that she acted alone.
Now, who helped her?
Patty Precioso told the jury that there was a very, very good chance that Melanie had an accomplice.
Although he was never charged, investigators took a hard look at Melanie's stepfather, Michael Caporero.
The prosecutor needed somebody, so they focused in on me. Anything they wanted, we gave them. We gave them DNA, we gave them hair samples. I had nothing to do with anything involving that crime.
You don't need the precise when. You don't need the precise where.
You don't have to find that she pulled the trigger. You don't have to find that she had hands-on physically in regards to his death. Well, boy, that leaves a lot of speculation out there for the jury. You can't guess someone into prison for the rest of their life.
The jury goes into deliberation, and Melanie and her family are waiting on pins and needles.
I was very concerned. I think we all as people like to believe that if someone was capable of committing this type of murder, that the person who did that would look like a monster. But sometimes killers look just like Melanie McGuire.
The day the verdict was read, the atmosphere in the courtroom was just electric.
Has the jury reached a verdict in this case?
Yes, Your Honor.
How do you find as to the count of the indictment charging Melanie McGuire with the murder of William McGuire?
Guilty.
I just remember seeing her collapse.
I remember grabbing Joe's arm, and I remember feeling my legs just kind of go out from under me.
She's alternating between, I didn't do it.
just beginning for us now. We'll never give up. We will never, ever give up for her until the truth comes out.
On direct appeal, we examine the murder conviction of Melanie McGuire.
This is a prepaid call from
Melanie McGuire,
an inmate at Edna Mahan Correctional Facility.
All right. Obviously, Melanie's been convicted. She's exhausted all of her appeals at this point. So how did the idea for this podcast come about?
Melanie McGuire was looking to speak with someone about her story because she had done really poorly in the court system, and I think she was frustrated. And after visiting with her the first time, I was like, this is a story. This is important.
I expected the worst, and what I got was just one step shy. They give the verdict parole eligible at the tender age of 101.
It was very difficult. It was reliving it. This was the first time somebody was basically saying, we hear you.
What'd you say? Let's get to the juicy part.
I want to know, do you think she is innocent or guilty?
In the end, I believe that Melanie McGuire was wrongfully convicted.
So you believe an innocent woman is behind bars right now?
Absolutely. I believe this is a case of a wrongful conviction.
So let's talk about some of the questions you raise in your podcast, and let's begin with the gun.
The gun to this day has never been recovered.
One of the key witnesses for the prosecution was a forensic ballistic expert.
So these are two discharge bullets. They're referred to as a .38 caliber lead wad cutter bullet.
Is it possible that the gun Melanie bought is not actually the murder weapon?
I think it's probable.
No one plugged the serial number of my gun into a website to find out what the specifications were. Apparently each gun makes something called lands and grooves.
Lands and grooves are rifling characteristics that are machine pressed into the barrel of a gun. And when the bullet passes through the barrel, the same number of lands and grooves are going to be imprinted essentially onto that bullet.
There were 5 lands and grooves that my weapon was said to have made based on the company's website. The bullets that came out of my husband had 6 lands and grooves.
It was a mistake on a gun manufacturer's website. We were not gathering evidence from a gun manufacturer's website. The evidence that was at trial was from ballistic experts.
But the website was updated.
It was.
After this trial to incorporate the possibility that it could have 5 or 6.
Yeah. I thought that was questionable. I think it's very questionable that for years historically it says one thing and then it's updated right after.
Let's talk about the garbage bags.
The prosecution had an expert that said that the garbage bag in which Bill's body was found in was consistent with the garbage bags that came from Melanie's apartment.
You can see these lines here. There's a straight line here, this sort of smooth line. There's also 2 other lines close together in basically the exact same position. This indicates that these 2 bags were made at the same facility on the same line within a very close proximity of time.
He ran tests, but he didn't do all the tests that you actually need to definitively say whether these bags matched. Even his own data shows that they probably weren't the same bags.
Well, there are always other tests that can be done in any analysis. Based on the testing we had conducted and the results that I observed, I felt competent at that time to conclude that the bags were produced during the same run.
They put on a really good show. And I think when you have props, 2 garbage bags, oh wow, those do look alike. And so what the jurors are listening to sounds like fact, when in reality, it's just someone's expert opinion.
There is something else that's significant that you think the jury should have heard more about that was found inside those suitcases.
If you look through the lab reports, page upon page upon page, white hair, brown hair, black hair, animal hair. I think that's indicative that there was animal hair where the dismemberment took place of Bill's body.
You mentioned that you found some animal hairs. Did you find anything that you considered of evidential value?
No.
And they looked high and low to connect Melanie to some pet. And once they found that there was no way to connect Melanie to these pet hairs, it became not of evidentiary value.
Why is that? Simply because they don't match your suspects?
Those hairs should have been tested because that's a huge question mark.
Melanie did not incapacitate, shoot, use a saw to dismember her husband. You know how hard it is to cut through bone? It is physically exhausting. And also, if the crime scene didn't happen there and she's home with her children all night, where is this happening? There are just too many holes in this story.
In this case, with the mountain of evidence against her and a very complex plan, I submit to you it's amazing we know as much as we do.
This was a murder trial. It wasn't a contest to see who could outsmart the investigators, and if someone is smart enough to successfully hide a crime scene, that they win.
Did you find any evidence that exonerates Melanie, that proves her innocence?
I wish we did. I had hoped we would. I still think that we might get a tip in that direction.
What do you say to the people at home who watch this and say, how dare she talk from prison and bring this all back up again? Enough pain has already befallen her husband's family, her own sons.
There's a murderer walking around. Even if we discount what's happened to me, the killer is out there. And it's not me.
She had about as good a counsel as money could buy. She certainly had a fair and impartial jury. The fact of the matter is sometimes the evidence is such that your attorneys, no matter what you can pay them, they simply cannot overcome what you've done. So she can say whatever she wants. She's a liar and she's a killer.
Today your boys are young men?
They are.
Is there anything you'd want to say to them? There will always be questions about this case that we may never have the answers to, like if Melanie McGuire did kill her husband, why did she drive more than 300 miles to get rid of his remains in the Chesapeake Bay? His friend John Rice has a theory.
Bill did want to move down here onto Virginia Beach. After a time, he gave up on that idea. So it almost seemed like a vindictive thing on her part to drive him down. Oh, you want to go to Virginia Beach? Here you go.
Why was it important for you to tell this story on your podcast?
A lot of people who are convicted, they'll go through the appeals process, but they won't prevail. If we can investigate this, provide any type of assistance, we're possibly remedying some of the harshest parts of our system.
There are times when podcasts and media can shine a light where what the government did was not right. This is not one of those cases. A 39-year-old man lost his life before he got to see his children grow up.
You have 2 little kids.
Yep. That's the hardest part. Knowing that when I see my children, when I hug them goodbye, it could be the last time.
Ultimately, the courts would award custody to Bill's sister, Cindy Lagoche. Melanie has had no contact with them.
Today your boys are young men?
They are.
Is there anything you'd want to say to them?
Make up your own mind. Don't accept what you're just being told on the surface. Dig.
What is your level of hope that one day you might walk out of here?
I'm terrified to hope, because to have it thwarted in here, it's absolutely soul-crushing.
Bill McGuire was the father of 2 small children. He was a brother, he was a friend, and his life got cut short.
I think Bill deserves to be remembered as a fantastic friend, a dad who loved his boys. He didn't deserve this. Nobody deserves that. No one.
Hi everybody, it's Molly. I figured I would just kind of give a little bit of background on me.
It was pitch black that night. It was very dark. Looks like it is Molly Watson. So.
Is it Molly Watson? Okay.
when her body was found. They were planning a wedding, and that wedding was less than 48 hours away.
Never would have thought that I would have been going to her funeral that next week instead of her wedding. Never would have thought it.
Molly Watson come in the door and she said, I'm here to get a marriage license. A lot of things happened after that. I don't want to cry.
She was about to get married, but she also had several serious relationships before that, and so had her fiance. And somebody was living a double life with a lot of secrets.
Investigators go to deliver what they believe is going to be shocking news. The shocking news was going to be delivered to them.
And I'll see you guys later.
April 27th of 2018. It was a Friday night.
So that night, me and my daughter come down through here. We figured we'd take the shortcut through.
Glenn McSparron is taking a shortcut from his mother's home there in Monroe County.
Didn't really think nothing of it, just a typical night.
County Road 930.
It's a gravel road. There's trees pretty much on both sides, pretty grown up around the roadway that leads back to a low water crossing. It's an area where the roadway will actually go through a creek.
Very desolate, especially at that time of the year.
As he's going along the road, he sees this car pulled over on the side of the road.
I come up on the creek. You got to turn as you go down into it and go across it as the road kind of curves. My headlights came over onto her body in front of the car, and I had to stop out in the middle of the creek, like right about here.
He finds a dead woman.
When I seen her, I swear my heart stopped. I just kind of got a little frantic, I think. I could tell she wasn't moving.
911, what's the address of your emergency?
I am at the end of Route M of 151, and there's a woman laying on the ground in front of a car.
I stayed in my truck, and I called 911.
I don't know what the hell's going on here.
All right, sir, would you mind if you would get out of your vehicle and check on her?
Yes, sir, I will.
It was just kind of a freaky situation. The whole time I'm standing there, I'm waiting on somebody to come out of the darkness. I had no flashlight that had batteries that was charged. I had my truck running behind me, so I couldn't hear nothing. I'm just, scared, like, when's somebody gonna come out of the woods?
You need to get the ambulance out here. But there's a lady laying in front of a car. I don't know if she's alive, dead, or what.
They wanted me to just make sure if she was alive or not.
Check on her and give me an update. That'd be greatly appreciated.
Finally, they got me out of the truck, and I grabbed my handgun and walked through the water, and I just kept on the phone with them.
Ma'am. Ma'am. Oh, my God. I don't think she's alive, no.
I seen if she was cold to the touch or if she had a pulse, and she did not. And I looked in her eyes, and I could tell that she was gone.
Her eyes are open. I swear to God, she's dead.
This case takes place in the American heartland. It's the northeastern section of the state of Missouri, Monroe County, and neighboring Randolph County. Bucolic agricultural community.
Not a whole lot of industry. The prison is one of the biggest employers. That is the Amish. There are kind of two big areas of Amish that are in northeast Missouri.
Just farm ground. I mean, there's dairy cows, there's beef cows, there's mainly, for the most part, just farming.
There's probably more animals than there are people in that county.
It's most well known for being the birthplace of Mark Twain, and he wrote a lot of his stories about this idyllic kind of landscape here in Monroe County.
Back at the crime scene, investigators are trying to identify this victim.
Where my patrol car is in the general vicinity of where we found the victim's car when we arrived on scene. Outside of the driver's door, there were what appeared to be blood on the ground, and then there were some drag marks in the gravel. And ultimately, we found a deceased female in front of the vehicle.
She's wearing pajama pants or sweatpants, as well as a tank top.
123.
Well, it was very obvious within the first few minutes to me that there was foul play involved.
She was essentially shot execution style. She had been shot once in the back of the head at point-blank range.
Some investigation was done as to ascertain the identity of the victim.
The weight didn't match on the DOR thing was the only thing I thought.
We initially run the vehicle registration, things of that nature.
Looks like it is Molly Watson, so.
Is it Molly Watson? Okay.
We were eventually able to figure out that the victim was Molly Watson.
Police wake up the family in the middle of the night with some pretty bad news.
My wife woke me up, said, "Your dad's on the phone. He doesn't sound good. Something happened." I'll never forget my dad. He said, "Timmy," he said, "the highway patrol just left our house." I was like, "What happened?" He said, "They found Molly dead in a road." And I was like, "What?"
Sandy called me at 2 o'clock in the morning and said that the police had just been to their house and told them that Molly had been shot.
I think she kept screaming, "Molly's dead," didn't she?
Yeah. Knowing that Molly was dead was a big shock.
You can see I was preparing to work on my next costume when I decided to do this vlog.
She wanted to be a singer for a long time, and she had a really good singing voice.
I am going to sing the healing incantation from Tangled. Flower, gleam and glow, let your power shine.
She was one of the luckiest people I've ever known. Like whenever we would walk by like a pop machine, she would always like push the buttons, and I don't know how it would happen, but like a pop would come out. That's what's hard, I think, for me, knowing how she passed. And one of the most unluckiest ways possible.
Is it Molly Watson? Okay. Do you know how old she is now?
Police want to know what brought Molly to this dark, desolate place, and even more puzzling, who'd have a reason to kill her?
And I'll see you guys later. Bye.
Molly Watson's body was found
Wearing her engagement ring
on her left ring finger.
when she was shot to death.
Our marriage certificate was located in her car.
That had her name in there as well as her fiance's name.
They were planning a wedding.
Wedding of her dreams.
That wedding was less than 48 hours away.
The murder of Molly Watson sends a shudder through her community in rural Missouri. Everyone is asking why. The life she led didn't seem to be one that would end in violence.
Molly had been married in her early 20s, but just after a few years, that marriage ended in divorce. But during the breakup, she was pregnant and had a son.
He ended up having cerebral palsy, so he was unable to walk, but smart as could be.
She loved Declan. She would take him to the zoo, you know, she would take him about anywhere with her. That was just her world right there. And then she met Amber, who she started a relationship with.
This is just a photo album that we had put together, Molly and I had with Declan. My name is Amber Brady. Molly Watson and I were in a relationship for about 5 years. That's Molly that Declan's laying on, and I'm right behind Molly, and we're all just kind of napping on the couch. We actually met in kindergarten. We went to kindergarten together. We did not like each other whatsoever. I thought she was a weird little person, and she thought I was obnoxious.
Amber and Molly lost touch for a long time, but years later, the kindergarten adversaries crossed paths again.
We actually ran into each other downtown Moberly one day, and she's like, "Is that you?" I'm like, "Yeah." And so it just kind of kicked off from there. We actually grew a friendship there, and then things just got closer.
They find they like the grown-up version of each other much more.
She was just bouncy and bubbly all the time. I mean, anything would make her smile, the simplest things.
And they fall in love.
She was actually my first girlfriend. I was hers. She was married at the time. I was too. But things weren't going well for either one of us.
Molly and Amber move in together, and when Molly's son is born, they're a little family.
We could talk. We could communicate. We like doing a lot of the same things. It just seemed to click.
But then Molly gets a new job.
She decided to go and apply at the prison, and that's where she was going to work. Mobile Area Correctional Center. She was a corrections officer 1. She was down in the wings that she had to do counts, search the cell, break up fights.
Molly meets somebody new at the prison. Not an inmate, but a lieutenant named James Addy.
I thought we were doing fine, but I guess they grew close.
Amber says she caught Molly and James at a motel.
And I went up there and knocked on the door. She answered. James Addy was getting dressed and leaving. That wasn't good.
Amber says there was another encounter at a gas station.
He gets out of the car, and he started to say something. I didn't give him the option. I told him, I said, you need to shut up. I said, you broke up our family.
At this point, she moved back into my mom and dad's house.
Amber says she's heartbroken, but Molly apparently is head over heels for James Addy.
I didn't have any friendship or anything to do with Molly. She had blocked me on everything, which that was fine. I mean, it wasn't a good breakup.
Molly was absolutely 100% in love with him. She would have walked the end of the earth for him.
It seemed like a pretty nice relationship. Smiling photos of them on trips together, a happy couple.
There was definitely an age gap there. At first, you know, it was weird for us, but, you know, everybody kind of got past it.
Growing up, Jim, far back as I can remember, he was always a good brother. He was a role model and example. He was in the Marine Corps, and then from the Marine Corps, he got out after Desert Storm and just created a life.
This guy is a proud veteran of the United States Marines. He was even born on the 4th of July. He's got 2 kids. He's worked as a mechanic, he's worked in a factory, and had gotten a job at the local prison where he was liked so much he reached the level of lieutenant.
James Addy does have some history. He's been married 4 times. He has so many ex-wives that apparently some of his own family members say they can't keep track of everyone's names.
I loved Melanie. She was always nice, always kind, funny. It was just Melanie. The type of women that Jim liked were very, very nice, very kind.
But now it's James and Molly.
And they really did seem to love each other. I mean, according to Jim, it was a relationship unlike anything he'd had before. Something that he said of mutual respect between the two, that they could share anything with each other. It's something any of us would love to have in a relationship with another person.
After 7 years of having this relationship with James, well, she surprises her family. She suddenly announces, I'm engaged.
And it was just kind of all of a sudden, boom, let's get married now.
She was all about him. Her family even described it. This was what she's always been looking for. She was happier than she's ever been. She was ready for the wedding.
Oh, constant. We always heard about the wedding. We were very excited about the wedding. You know, the colors, the theme, the decorations.
There's a lot of burgundy and gold. Kind of reminded me of like a Renaissance kind of themed wedding. From Molly's perspective, it was gonna be a beautiful wedding and the best day ever.
You were booked for her makeup and hair 3 years ago.
Yes.
What did you know about Molly and the wedding and her fiance?
I remember meeting her. She was so excited. She wanted a Disney themed, and we had been working on a wedding that was Beauty and the Beast. And so we were like, we're very familiar with like doing this very like, you know, Disney themed wedding.
This dress, as you will see with it on me, I show it with me wearing one ball gown crinoline.
She was very excited. Well, she had how many dresses?
2.
2 dresses, yeah.
2 dresses. She could not make up her mind.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Molly wanted to do, was have a perfect wedding.
She was so excited.
Very excited because it had taken a while to get to that point, I guess, of them being married.
What did you make of Molly as a bride-to-be?
She was really sweet. I loved working with her.
A very wonderful wedding had been planned at the Stony Creek Inn. Molly had invited her family here to come to this event.
I got mine, sent my RSVP back.
The couple times that I met her, she always had a smile on her face. She was bubbly, she was happy, she enjoyed talking about her wedding. James was kind of the opposite of Molly. He was very quiet, didn't show much enthusiasm. I just thought he was just a groom along for the ride.
Is James looking to back out of the wedding? You see, in their text messages, Molly appears to be worried about that.
Are you still sure you want to marry me with my anxiety?
Before her life was cut short on that backcountry road, Molly was over the moon about her upcoming wedding to James Addy, but her family wasn't so sure.
I asked her, you know, what does your family think about him? And she was really kind of hesitant, and she said, you know, my family doesn't really like him. They've only met him a few times.
He pulled in one day and Sandy was in the kitchen and she says, "Come here, come here." So we're standing in the kitchen looking out the window and I went, "Him? She likes him?" And she said, "Yeah."
Even though Molly and James have been together for 7 years, they don't really know this guy. Molly's brother even says he doesn't know James's last name.
He could never look you in the eye. He could never talk to you directly. Everything was very evasive with him. He put off bad vibes to everybody.
He was like a ghost that would come in and go out. But Molly was protective. It was her business.
Now Molly is finally getting married again, but some of her closest relatives send their regrets. They're not coming.
That was my last message to Molly. I'm not gonna be able to go. My kids have a softball and baseball tournament that weekend. I said, but you know how I feel about weddings and funerals. I kind of have a thing anyway that I just kind of avoid weddings and funerals.
Molly finally had convinced me. She sent me a text message the night before she was murdered. It's actually the last one I got from her. It said, "You have to be there. It won't be the same without you." And that kind of got to me. So I told her, I was like, "Okay, I'll do it for you."
Never would have thought that I would have been going to her funeral that next week instead of her wedding. Never would have thought it.
Late 2017, early 2018, James Addy and Molly Watson began planning a wedding, going to the recorder's office, getting a marriage license.
This one here is on the date of April 25th, 2018. James Aaron Addy, 51, to Molly Nicole Watson, 35. I'm Mark Price. I'm the Randolph County Recorder of Deeds in the county of Randolph in the state of Missouri.
As the county recorder, he was responsible for recording deeds, as well as recording marriage licenses. And he performed that ritual for James Addy and Molly Watson on April 25th, 2 days before her murder.
Security camera video actually shows Molly walking across the parking lot and coming into the building.
The cameras I got in the back of my office for security filmed all that.
Even on security cameras, Molly's bubbly personality is pretty obvious. She's smiling and laughing there, chatting with the guard. And you notice her phone? Apparently she always kept that close.
Molly Watson come in the door just shortly before 4 o'clock, and she said, "I'm here to get a marriage license." And she was quite pleasant to talk to. We had a good time.
And you can see James there in his uniform, showing up late, hurrying inside.
And then Mr. Addy walked in the door, and he was not smiling. He was acting like this was not the place he wanted to be in. She reached right over to him and was touching his arm and stuff, and she would pat him on the back, and she would lean into him a little bit. He seemed perturbed with some of the things that I was asking him, like if he'd been married before and how it ended. He was just like, why do you need to know that?
Maybe Addie just didn't like admitting he'd already been married 4 times before. Or maybe he just didn't like the questions about his marriage to Melanie Addie, which he tells the recorder had ended in divorce 6 months earlier.
The couple leaves the recorder's office holding hands.
That's just tough. It really is, because she was a sweet girl. A lot of things happened after that. I don't want to cry.
Judging by their text messages, it appears Molly Watson, the soon-to-be 5th wife of James Addie, is beginning to question just how committed this guy really is.
Are you still sure you want to marry me with my anxiety?
Just days before the wedding, Molly is expressing real concern that James is getting cold feet.
Yes, dear. Why would you ask something like that?
Because when you were talking earlier, you sounded like you were starting to doubt your decision.
Not even close, dear.
James is trying his best to reassure Molly that he is all in.
Are you changing your mind?
Not at all.
Then what?
It worries me that you were changing yours.
I wasn't.
Good.
If you read the cards that James sent, this sounds like a man in love telling Molly, "You are truly the love of my life, now and forever. You are my everything. I love you. I adore you." This does not sound like a guy who's nervous about getting married.
As Molly is building and getting ready for the wedding and the excitement is starting to take over, there's some horrible news.
James tells Molly his ex-wife, Melanie, has just died.
His ex-wife / mother of his kids was in a car accident over the holidays. And she had just passed away from the injuries.
Molly was told by Jim that she was on life support for a bit, and eventually we had to pull the plug on her. We had to let her go.
This is such tragic news. And of course, it could not have happened at a worse time, just as Molly is putting the final touches on her day, her wedding day. Boom, this happens, everything is thrown into chaos.
Bride-to-be Molly Watson has her wedding to James Addie all arranged. She booked the location, she bought the centerpieces, she even hired hair and makeup. But you know what they say about best laid plans?
The big day is right around the corner, but there are so many hitches in the wedding plans.
The plan was that she had a stepdaughter who she was planning to do hair and makeup on. Then she said that, but I'll let you know when we get closer to the time because she's not sure if she really wants to be in the wedding.
Hi, Crystal. This is Molly Watson. The work's just been kind of crazy trying to get ready for the wedding.
There's some last-minute changes. James and Molly cut their guest list in half, and Molly leaves a voicemail saying James's daughter Emma won't be in the wedding party after all.
I did also want to let you know that it is just going to be me getting hair and makeup done. My soon-to-be stepdaughter has decided she and a friend are going to do each other's hair and makeup, and so we're just going to go that route.
We're like, oh, you know, no big deal. So I didn't really think anything of it.
James had told Molly, who told me, that his ex-wife was involved in December in a really bad car wreck and that she was on life support. And they didn't think she was going to make it.
With every wedding, we do a final walkthrough and detailing meeting. However, when I was reaching out to Molly to try to get that meeting scheduled, she had mentioned that James's ex-wife had passed away from a car accident over the holidays.
And a couple of weeks before Molly's death, she had actually told me that they had went in and pulled the plug on her and she passed away.
Now this is April we're talking, and she had just passed away from the injuries. So he had to go and do funeral stuff with his kids when we were trying to meet.
On the day that Molly Watson was murdered, James Addy had dropped off centerpieces or decorations for the wedding planner and had made a payment on the wedding.
He seemed just like he did in every other meeting that I met him. So this was probably the second or third time I've met him in person. Again, really quiet, didn't say much. He brought in the decor, and me being a bubbly event coordinator trying to get people amped for their big day. I'm being enthusiastic, and I do recall as I was walking him out the door, I asked if he's getting excited, and his one comment was that she was driving him crazy.
Mr. Addy made a statement that Molly Watson was driving him crazy.
Deputies say they found a woman's body in the area of Highway 151 and Route M Friday night.
I was at home watching TV, and their pictures come up on the screen and that she was dead.
It has been identified as 35-year-old Molly Watson from Huntsville.
And I went, oh my gosh, and I hollered at my wife. I said, Carla, I think I was the one that sold them the marriage license just earlier this week.
The investigation is sort of launched throughout that night with the Missouri Highway Patrol going out there, looking at this.
Now police get their first big break in this investigation. And that's thanks to the guy in the pickup truck, Glenn McSparron.
It was pitch black that night. It was very dark.
Glenn McSparron was taking a shortcut that night to and from his mother's home and discovered Molly's body on the way back from his mother's.
However, we also found out that that was not the first time he had been through the water crossing that night.
About 30 minutes before he discovers the body of Molly Watson, he's driving down this same desolate dirt road in Monroe County, Missouri.
Earlier in the night, he was taking his daughter over to his mother's home and actually encountered that scene from the opposite direction.
And he saw a car come up and kind of cut him off, put their headlights right into his view.
I started to see that there was lights down here. And once I got a little bit closer, I could see that there was a car, and I thought that they wanted past me, so I pulled over to the side of the road. Then I could see another car parked over on the right, facing away from me.
At first I thought somebody was stuck because like the car with the lights on facing us, it looked almost like it was spinning and like the front end was kind of sliding back and forth.
He said he saw a short white guy driving the car.
An older white male in a big grandma car.
Glenn McSparron described the car with the older white man as an old grandma car.
Then all of a sudden he pulled up down closer to us. I rolled my window down just a little bit and I stuck my head over next to it, and right about then the guy got out and come to the end of his door. And I couldn't hardly see him because of all the glare. And I just kind of turned my head towards the window and I said, hey, is somebody stuck down there? And how did he say that? He said, I don't know where they're at. It's going to be a while.
Glenn McSparron had a brief verbal exchange with this older white male, and the other individual indicated that Glenn needed to go around a different way.
So I just backed my truck up a little bit and went back to the west. The more I thought about it, I was like, something's not right. And I talked to my mom and my brother for a minute, and I told them, I said, I'm gonna go back through there.
And that's when he finds Molly Watson at the scene dead. Calls the police.
In the hours after finding Molly, police searching in the dark find her purse and her other belongings. But they soon realize that something very important is missing from this crime scene. something that really should be there.
We all know that technology plays a big part of solving murder cases now. But at this point, police in this case don't have Molly's cell phone.
Molly Watson's cell phone was not found at the scene of her murder.
Investigators will set out to find Molly's phone. Before the sun comes up, another important discovery comes to light.
This discovery is pretty amazing. I mean, the deputy was not out searching for evidence. He was driving back to the crime scene in the dark. He's got the good sense to pick it up, and boy, is it going to turn out to be important.
The crime scene is in the middle of nowhere in Monroe County, Missouri.
It's remote. I mean, it's really grown up. You're driving in between trees and horseweeds down to the creek.
So this is a low water crossing. You can kind of see the roadway on the other side.
It is an unpaved gravel road.
It's a low water crossing, so it's muddy at points.
At this muddy crime scene, right where that witness says he saw a man driving what he called a grandma car, investigators find remarkably well-preserved tire tracks.
There were tire impressions which were along the edge of the road.
There was an embankment, and there appeared to be markings that looked like two O's.
What appeared to be lettering from the sidewall of the tire. There were what appeared to be double O's. I think everybody looking thought that it was probably a Goodyear tire.
They also located a tire print just feet from Molly's body. The Missouri State Highway Patrol created a cast of a tire print in the mud near Molly's body. They did that with the hopes that in the future they'd be able to compare it to other tires.
And they take some of this evidence from the tire track in the mud in order to analyze this tire track. Could we match what we found here to any particular tire?
Authorities are working hard to try to figure out who in the world would have a reason to want to end the life of this friendly, happy young woman.
When they searched Molly Watson's belongings in her car, they did locate cash still in her purse.
She was wearing what appeared to be a diamond solitaire engagement ring on her left hand,
indicating that the motive might not have been robbery.
So if it's not robbery, what is the motive? Could Molly herself have left a clue on Facebook?
In a Facebook post that happened about a year before her death, Molly complains about an ex, but she doesn't say who it is. She says they were trying to access her bank accounts.
Let me read the post to you. I suspect it was the unstable individual who attempted to intimidate me with their service weapon by pointing it at me and threatening me when I left the relationship.
I have no idea who had threatened her. I had never, ever, ever threatened her.
Amber denies meddling with any of Molly's bank accounts. And keep in mind, she wasn't Molly's only ex. James and Molly had an on-again, off-again relationship. There were other people in the picture as well.
This is definitely not normal. This is not something we get in Monroe County very often. Murders, we don't get very often.
Brandon Osborne was a sheriff's deputy with the Monroe County Sheriff's Office at the time that Molly Watson's body was found.
He needed to return to the sheriff's office quickly.
On his way back to the crime scene, Brandon Osborne located a t-shirt in the middle of Route M.
I came upon this shirt laying in the road, went around the shirt and past it, and then I stopped and I'm thinking, we're kind of close to the crime scene here. I probably better pick that up just in case.
This discovery is pretty amazing. I mean, the deputy was not out searching for evidence. He was driving back to the crime scene in the dark. He spots the t-shirt. He's got the good sense to pick it up, and boy, is it going to turn out to be important.
That t-shirt, we later learned, had gunshot residue on it, had Molly Watson's blood.
We can infer that that was at the scene at some point of Molly Watson's murder, given the presence of that gunshot residue and her blood on the t-shirt.
It turned out to be a very important piece of evidence.
Meantime, there's an autopsy.
It revealed that Molly Watson died of a single gunshot wound to the back of the head, that the trigger was pulled when the gun was flush against Molly's head, and that it was a small caliber weapon that was used to kill her.
The medical examiner is able to extract a bullet from the body of Molly. The problem is this bullet is crushed beyond recognition. That's not what police want to hear when they're building a case against a suspect.
Prosecutors were not able to identify a murder weapon because the bullet that they found was too damaged to be able to match it up with any particular firearm.
All we can say about the projectile is that it would be consistent with a small caliber ammunition.
A .22 would be considered a small caliber firearm, along with several other calibers.
Investigators are searching, and on a road leading away from the scene, County Road M, they find evidence.
Along Route M, there were a couple of items of evidence that were located, including an ammunition box.
It was an empty .22 caliber ammunition box.
The investigators are gathering that evidence to examine later, but right now, in the middle of the night, there's something they've got to do right away. They've got to break the bad news to Molly's fiance, James Addy.
At that point, wanted to make a notification to him that there'd been an incident involving Molly.
The Highway Patrol trooper does one of the more unfortunate parts of a law enforcement officer's job, to go notify somebody that their loved one is dead.
So they went to his house that evening.
They're expecting that he's going to be devastated, that they found the body of his fiancée.
What they didn't realize is that the shocking news that was going to be delivered to them would change this investigation immediately.
A bright light is about to illuminate the secret life of James Addy. What has he been hiding?
This is an unbelievable story. This is a story about a double life.
Those lives were set on a collision course when he and Molly Watson began planning a wedding.
Molly apparently is head over heels for James Addy.
She was all about him. This is what she's always been looking for.
He had told Molly that his wife died in a terrible accident.
2 days before this long-awaited marriage,
oh my God,
Molly's found murdered.
It's just built and built and built.
And somebody was living with a lot of secrets. A man driving along a back road in rural Missouri makes a stunning discovery. The body of a woman. So he calls the police.
Is it Molly Watson? Okay.
The investigators working this crime scene discover that the victim, Molly Watson, has a fiancé. His name is James Addy.
He was supposed to marry Molly in like 2 days.
The Highway Patrol trooper does a sort of unfortunate part of a law enforcement officer's job, to go notify somebody that their loved one is dead.
So Sheriff Colston, along with a couple of members of the Missouri State Highway Patrol, went from the crime scene to James Addy's home.
Molly Watson was basically murdered at the midway point between James Addy's home and her home.
So they go to his house outside of Mexico, Missouri, which is, let's say, 25 miles away.
It's very late, the point that we're getting to his house, right around 2 in the morning. Went to knock on the door.
And that door was answered by James Addy. He was wearing a bathrobe.
As investigators go to deliver what they believe is going to be shocking news to James Addy, they had no idea that the shocking news was going to be delivered to them.
While the trooper is there in the home, he makes a startling discovery. There's another woman in James Addy's house. She asked the trooper, "What are you doing here?" And I imagine the trooper probably felt much of the same thing. What are you doing here?
The answer's not just a complete surprise, it's a shock. It turns out the woman who was there is James Addy's wife, Melanie Addy. She had not only been married to James for more than 20 years, but she's the mom of their 2 children, including a teenage girl named Emma, who is upstairs, asleep in her own bed.
Now, this is a stunning moment, since Addy had told Molly his ex-wife was dead.
We definitely were not expecting for there to be a wife present.
She's his wife? The guy's living a complete double life. What is going on here?
It was kind of like he was stuck between a rock and a hard place. He was realizing that I've already been married for years. I have 2 kids with this woman, but I also have this whole other life. He knew that in 2 days, all of that was going to collide.
This is a huge predicament for him. How do you keep both of these lives going?
Molly knew he was married. He had told her, and she told me all this. She's like, he has a wife, he plans on leaving her once their daughter graduates high school.
Why would you ask someone to marry you if you're already married?
Right.
You know, just continue on the way you were.
Turns out Melanie Addy is James Addy's 4th wife, so that would mean Molly would have been his 5th marriage. But it's really unclear how those previous marriages ended.
We tried to find those previous ex-wives, but no one we interviewed for this story knew any details.
The wife, she denies any knowledge of the affair. I don't think that she knew.
I guess Melanie asked who Molly Watson was, and he had to confess, yeah, it's my lover.
James Addy was interviewed apart from the other members of the home.
He admits that he was cheating on Melanie with Molly, and that, yes, they had been engaged to be married.
He admits early on that he had done something he should have in terms of an affair. He never said he killed anyone.
Mr. Addy became visibly hot and uncomfortable during that interview. So hot and uncomfortable that he actually walked over to his window, opened it, and put a box fan there to blow the cool air in.
At first, Addy offers up an explanation of what he had been doing that night.
James Addy said he was going to see a friend that night at 7 o'clock.
He says that he was going to pick up an avocado plant. Says that he got back home around 8:30 that night.
But Addy also admits something else to police. He tells them that he had been talking to Molly earlier that night using a phone that he kept hidden from his wife.
There was essentially a secret phone or a private phone that he only used to communicate with Molly Watson.
It was a purple cell phone that he went out and grabbed and gave it to investigators, said this is what I used to communicate, and boy did he communicate.
James Addy admits to talking to Molly Watson every single day and volunteered that the last time he had spoken with Molly Watson was earlier in that evening, and showed the police a screenshot of a 22-minute phone call from her to him.
He did not indicate that she was driving or what she was doing during the period of that phone call.
James Addy texted Molly Watson after she was dead. These texts were like maybe a caring fiance would send.
What did you eat for supper? I love you so much.
And finally, when he has no response, he says something like, "Night, night, sweetheart, I'll talk to you tomorrow."
For police, everything has changed since that very first moment that they walked into the Addy's house. This man has a wife. He was sweating in the interview. He's got phone and text messages that seem ever so suspicious. So for police, there's plenty. What do? They arrest him. They charge him with first-degree murder.
Now the trick is building a case.
Doing all right, sir? Okay.
Not really.
I got a call from our sister Heather, and she told me Jim's been arrested for murder. And I'm like, no, I didn't believe it. There hasn't been a moment yet that I have thought that Jim killed Molly.
And what did Melanie, James Addy's wife, think? I couldn't believe what she had to say about this incredible double life.
He might have tried to kill you. All right, here we go. I'm here with Joe Diaz on our way to Monroe County to interview Melanie Addy about this stunning story.
When I look back on that drive, there was a lot of anticipation. This was going to be one of the more unusual interviews I'd done.
How did you even learn about this story, Joe?
I heard about this trial and was immediately, fascinated by how this man lived a double life.
We were about to interview Melanie Addy, the actual wife of James Addy, the man who was now accused of murder.
Melanie, first of all, I want to thank you for doing this, because I know you've not done this before.
No, I haven't.
You said that you feel kind of emotional.
I do, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, anything that takes you back there is hard.
It had been 3 years since Melanie learned the truth, but her emotions were still just under the surface as we went back to the beginning of her story.
That's me.
Oh, my Jim. Tell me about meeting James Addy.
I was working at a convenience store, and he was a customer. He came in a lot and finally asked me out.
And once you two hit it off, did he pop the question pretty soon?
Very quickly, maybe 6 months.
That's the wedding photo.
Wedding. Mm-hmm.
You look so young, both of you.
We didn't have a lot of money, and we had Ben on the way very quickly.
When Ben came into the picture, man, I remember going up to their house. It was always fun. So happy.
A few years later, Emma comes along. So your family is growing.
It was exactly what we wanted. We had these 2 great kids. I was a stay-at-home mom. He went to work. It was a very traditional way to do things. I thought it was very good. I love that picture, yeah. All of us together at Christmas time.
As the years went on, Melanie admits there were problems in the marriage. There were arguments about money. James clashed with their teen son. But she says she felt her husband was dedicated to his family and very loyal. And she never suspected that he was having an affair. Did you get any sense of whether he was contented and happy in the marriage?
He seemed the same all the time.
Melanie did admit that the marriage had its ups and downs, but in her mind, they had always been able to work through whatever the issues were. This was her reality. Everything was the same, but the fact is, it wasn't. James Addy was in a completely different place.
He was over it. He was done. He didn't love her anymore.
James Addy, for the past 7 years, had been living 2 lives.
How was he able to separate both of these lives?
He's a very good liar.
At one point, he takes a trip to Florida on his own. What was that trip about?
He told me it was a trip related to his work, where they were doing some training.
He took the extra step and printed out what looked like a business letter, made it look official that that's what he was doing, but he was taking the trip to Florida with Molly.
Another time he takes a trip to Mexico.
Right.
With friends.
I never really knew his work friends. Seems plausible.
As I talked to Melanie, knowing where this was going, it was hard not to be a little incredulous. But no matter what I asked, she was consistent. She said she did not know the truth about what was going on.
He would get off work at 3, and usually he would get home at 5. And I would say, well, why are you always so late? And that would be an argument. He didn't want to tell me anything.
Any suspicions?
Not about an affair, no.
No suspicions about an affair meant no suspicions about what was going to happen on April 27, 2018, the night Molly Watson was killed.
So let's go back then to April 27, 2018. Any strange behavior on his part?
No, not at all. Nothing. He just seemed like he always did. About 7 o'clock, he came in to the living room where I was and said he was going to a friend's house.
Did it strike you as unusual or odd?
I remember being irritated that I wanted him to just be home, and he had a hard time staying home.
Do you remember when he came home?
I was asleep.
Melanie says that Emma stayed up long after she had gone to bed. And whatever time James Addy got home, well, Melanie says that she woke up at 2 in the morning to the sound of his snoring. And she says she did what she normally does, move to the couch in the living room.
What next?
About 2:30, I think, I saw police car lights out my window. It was very strange to see that. I didn't know what was happening.
She wasn't ready for everything that was about to come. She wasn't prepared that he had this whole other life that was happening without her.
The police tell you
Yes.
that your husband has a dead fiance?
Yes.
And he's engaged to the woman.
Yeah.
And you're learning all of this in one night.
Immediately, yeah.
And you've been married for
23 years.
What did you think?
I can't even tell you. It was just mind-boggling. It made no sense at all. None.
Were you angry? Were you hurt? What were you feeling?
Probably just disbelief in the beginning. It didn't seem right. This was not my life.
Did you think that your husband was capable of murder?
Yes. It just seemed like something he would do to fix a problem. He was a pretty selfish person. He could be controlling and intimidating, and it could be challenging. I could see this being a way out for him.
Melanie Addy begins searching her house. She searches a loft-type area above the garage, which she rarely went into, and found a photo album.
She finds several photos of Jim and Molly together on trips to Cancun, of them together, smiling, a happy couple.
She found the photos of them in Florida on this trip that she had thought was a harmless business trip for him to go on, that he was actually there with his fiancée, getting ready to get married.
Were you asking yourself, how could I have missed this?
Oh, absolutely. Every day. Every day. How do you not see this? I guess because I wasn't supposed to see it.
So he's under arrest, he's in jail.
Yes.
Do you go visit him?
The following week, we were both in tears. Both in tears.
What is he saying to you?
That he's sorry. He's very sorry for the affair, but he insists that he was not the killer, that he is not responsible for this.
Was there a part of you that felt for him on any level?
Absolutely. Because I felt like, oh, I have to take care of him. This is what we do. We take care of each other.
Did you look at him suddenly as a stranger, as somebody you didn't know?
I looked at him as someone I didn't want back.
What would become of James Addy? If there's one piece of smoking gun evidence in this case, prosecutors say it's not a gun, it's a cell phone.
Like they say, deceased person doesn't speak, but it's almost like Molly was speaking from the grave. This is an unbelievable story. This is a story about a man who was living a double life.
Those lives were set on a collision course when he and Molly Watson began planning a wedding.
Just built and built and built to the point where the guy with 2 lives was about to have 2 wives, and he had to make a choice.
And when that wedding was less than 48 hours away.
2 days before this long-awaited marriage,
oh my God,
she's found murdered.
Dead.
A trial has started for a mid-Missouri man accused of killing his fiancée.
James Addy is accused of killing his fiancée, Molly Watson.
James Addy, the former prison guard, has himself been under guard, locked up in county jail for 3 years until his trial begins.
A female appeared out of a side room, caught me completely off guard.
The lead investigator, Bradley Ream, takes the stand.
I asked her who she was. She replied, "I am his wife."
He testifies about that jaw-dropping moment at the Addy home when they find out that James Addy is already married and his supposedly dead ex-wife, Melanie, is still very much alive. She's standing right there.
I was like, whoa, I was wondering what was going on. And he told me that I got myself involved in something I shouldn't have.
When you first went to the water crossing the first time, was there another car present?
Yes, there was. We came upon a pair of headlights down by the creek, and then I could tell there was another car facing away from me.
Glenn McSparron testifies about seeing that older white man at the crime scene, but in a blow to the prosecution, he cannot identify James Addy as the man he saw.
I couldn't get a really 100% clear look at him.
I just couldn't get a good enough eyeball on him to tell for certain, hey, yeah, that's the guy. I wish I would have. It would have made everybody's life a lot easier.
But McSparron's description of the car that man was driving, that old grandma car, police say that matches Addy's car. And then they take a good look at the tires.
Prosecutors say one of the tires on Addy's car, a Goodyear tire, is just the kind that could leave a 00 impression, like the one found near Molly Watson's body.
It wasn't just that 00 print from the side of the Goodyear tire. Officers have something more. What prosecutors call a perfect tire print in the mud, just a few feet from Molly's body.
A state crime lab expert testifies that he compared the right rear tire on Addy's car to a cast that was made of the track that was found at the scene of the crime next to Molly's body.
And what conclusion did you draw, if any, about the tire and the cast?
My conclusion was that particular tire made that particular impression.
Prosecutors are convinced that this tire track matches Addy's car. The defense is saying, not so fast.
All right, I'd like to talk to you about this comparison that we just had that states
there is no widely accepted scientific principle behind an examiner looking at one tire and looking at a cast and saying they look the same to me.
State's Exhibit 67. Could you explain to the jury what they're looking at here?
That is an empty ammo box of .22 caliber.
A prosecution witness testifies bullets found in a .22 caliber rifle found in James Addy's home are consistent with Thunderbolt ammunition, the kind that came in the empty ammo box they found. Even so, that doesn't prove that that's the murder weapon.
Prosecutors call a long parade of highway patrol investigators and criminalists, and then they introduce a key item of evidence.
Prosecutors say it's not a gun, it's a cell phone, also found out on the side of the road.
We utilized a cell site simulator, and we were able to locate her phone.
Molly Watson's cell phone was a vital link in the chain of evidence for prosecutors. Like they say, deceased person doesn't speak, but it's almost like Molly was speaking from the grave.
Information from her cell phone did tell us that she had driven from her home to this location while she was on the phone with James Addy.
Investigators are poring over all these text messages between James and Molly, and what they're hoping to do is reconstruct the events leading up to her killing. And maybe they'll find even a triggering moment that caused it to happen.
And investigators say there's a reference to that story about Addy's wife dying after a car crash.
Prosecutors say Addy texted Molly that his ex-wife's funeral was happening the day before their wedding.
The funeral is tomorrow.
I'm sorry, sweetness. I love you so, so much.
Why would James Addy lie? I mean, why tell Molly his ex-wife Melanie was dead? Some speculate he hoped the story about the car crash would cause Molly to postpone the wedding and the collision of his two lives. But instead, it may have sped up his day of reckoning.
Molly, at a certain point, did try to look into this and question this, according to some of the things brought up in court.
Forensic searches of Molly's phones indicated that the day before she was murdered, she was looking for Melanie Addy's obituary.
What is the general theme of these searches?
Searching for obituary or death notices for Melanie Addy.
Was obviously unable to find an obituary for Melanie Addy.
prosecutors make sure to point out the significance of these searches the day before the murder. They argue a theory that Molly has figured out she's been fed a pack of lies. James's wife isn't dead. He's not free to marry. This guy's a con man. So perhaps Molly confronted James, and he decides, well, I'm just going to end it with a gun.
Did James Addy have a plan to see Molly that night?
As stated here in the exhibit, the text message says, "I think I'm going to see you tonight." And that was sent from James's purple phone to Molly.
He knew. He knew what was going to happen. He knew how that date was going to end. Earlier in the evening of April 27th, before James Addy departed his home, he had sent text messages from himself to himself.
Have a meeting tonight at 8, normal place. You have to be there.
James Addy seems to be almost firing himself up to do something drastic.
Don't be a again. Let's go, man.
It was as if one part of him was telling the other to, come on, we can do this. Let's go.
Trying to psych himself up for something. Obviously now we know what it is. Don't be a man. Let's go, man. He's talking himself into it. He's getting himself ready.
As the trial is getting underway, what could have or would have been James Addy's closest allies as a criminal defendant, his wife and his daughter, are now actually going to take the stand against him.
Were you aware that you were on a guest list to attend your dad's wedding? I want to talk specifically right now about the evidence of April 27th, 2018. Molly's last night alive.
She was home just hanging out at her house when James Addy, her fiance, called her and said something to her that prompted her to leave the house.
Grabbed her slippers, threw them on, grabbed her coat and threw it on, and told my mom and dad, you know, I'm gonna meet James here in a little bit. I'll be right back. And out the door she went.
Molly was lured to this Monroe County road. A 22-minute phone call and a 22-minute drive to her death. The defendant's on the phone with her when she walks out her door. He's on the phone with her the entire drive.
For the next 30 minutes or so, police say that Addy's phones, both of them, are silent. No calls, no texting.
That is when he killed Molly Watson. Will you please state your name and spell it for the court reporter?
Emma Addy, E-M-M-A-A-D-D-I-E.
The most emotion that we saw out of James Addy was when Emma took the stand. James Addy was in tears.
The evidence at trial showed that Emma Addy had actually met Molly Watson previously.
James's daughter, Emma, needed a costume.
And Dad said that he knew somebody who did that kind of thing. And that person was Molly, and he took me to go meet her, and she made a costume for me.
James had introduced Molly as a friend from work.
What was James Addy thinking? Introducing this secret girlfriend to his own daughter, and of course, the daughter has no clue what she means to him. I mean, why? Why would he do this?
Did you know about his relationship with Molly?
No.
She articulated to the jury what she saw and heard and remembered from that night.
I was still up doing homework at around 10 p.m. And that's around the time that Dad came home.
Specifically that he got home at 10 o'clock, not 8:30.
On cross-examination, the defense really tries to create some doubt with timing as to when James Addy actually got home. Even though Emma says it was 10 o'clock, maybe he had gotten home earlier. Maybe he was in the garage working on his car. Maybe she didn't know.
You'd agree with me that back in this time frame that your dad would frequently be in the garage, correct?
Yes.
Emma's most damaging testimony may be about that bloody T-shirt. Remember the one that was found in the road near the crime scene?
The t-shirt becomes so important to this case because it's a one-of-a-kind t-shirt. And here's the kicker. It was made by James Addy's daughter, Emma.
Do you recognize that shirt?
Yes.
Right. How do you recognize that shirt?
She was able to identify it because she made it as a part of one of her classes. And so she was able to affirmatively say, that is a t-shirt that I made.
Okay, I know that's my shirt.
She gave it to her father.
I brought them home that day after the contest, and Dad said that he would take one to the garage just to use as rags.
The defense offers the jury an explanation for why that T-shirt was found near the crime scene. He suggests that perhaps James Addy had given it to Molly.
Is it so implausible that one fiance has a shirt that belonged to their fiance?
As far as your marriage with James Addy, can you describe it for the jury?
Testifying next, the woman James Addy allegedly claimed was dead, his now ex-wife, Melanie Addy.
It was good sometimes, it was bad sometimes. I thought we both tried to make it work.
You were called to testify.
Mm-hmm.
How hard was that?
It's horrible. It's just horrible. You don't want to be there. I don't want to be in a position where I'm hurting him. I don't want to do that.
So in April of 2018, were you still married to Mr. Addy and living in that same home?
Yes.
Did you have any plans to divorce at that point?
No.
After 23 years of marriage, Melanie Addy had divorced James, for real, soon after his arrest.
Within a few weeks, you filed for divorce.
Oh, yes. He'd always been very hard on me about you know, how a wife should act and how a wife should be. And then he did this. He had an affair, and that's okay. No, we were done. We were done.
James Addy didn't react to his ex-wife taking the stand, but everybody else did. Anybody watching was riveted.
I'm going to take you back specifically to April 27th of 2018. Do you remember that day?
Yes.
James Addy indicated to law enforcement that he was wearing certain clothing that night.
Tells them boots and a pair of gym shorts. However, later conversations with Melanie Addy reveal that those were not the clothes that he was wearing.
Do you remember what he was wearing when he left?
Blue jeans, a black jacket, and boots.
Blue jeans, boots, and a dark black colored jacket.
That jacket was never recovered during a search of the Addy home.
Prosecutors also ask Melanie about that outrageous story, the one they say James told Molly, that Melanie was dead.
Were you in a horrible car crash in October of 2017 around Christmas or New Year's?
No.
And is it fair to say you did not pass away in April of 2018?
That's correct.
As the murder trial speeds along, a defense strategy catches some courtroom observers by surprise, and the jury delivers a verdict.
All right, then. My understanding the jury has reached a verdict. Do I have a foreperson?
Yes, sir.
When the jury walked in, like 5 of the jury members looked at us, like they glanced over, and I thought, okay, I don't know if it's a good sign or not.
My name is Richard Stewart Painter.
So back in April of 2018, you were in jail at that time, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
What's a case without a jailhouse snitch? But this trial had not one, but 2 inmates who took the stand to testify against James Addy.
Bryce Hendren and Richard Painter were 2 inmates in the Monroe County Jail at the time that James Addy was arrested and brought to detention there.
Did something happen while you were in the jail that concerned you?
Yes, it did.
They're all sitting together in a common room, watching television. It's just kind of shooting the breeze. And they asked Jim, well, what are you doing here?
A conversation about bond come up. And it was brought to our attention that his bond was $500,000. And that sparked our attention enough to wonder what he had done. And then the phrase was made, I put someone face down in a ditch.
The guy said he laid someone face down in a ditch. That was about it.
How this state interprets that was essentially Jim confessing to having done this, to having killed Molly.
Like most defense attorneys in cases where jailhouse snitches are used, this attorney wants to tear it apart on cross-examination.
Isn't it true that you actually aren't sure what you heard, right?
I was right beside him, and I can say 99% sure that that's what I heard him say.
You said that you gave a statement to law enforcement, right?
Yes.
Okay. And in that statement, right, you said, I'm not sure what I heard, right?
If that's what I said, then that's...
My name is Bradley Breen.
Samantha Cohen.
Nathan Schinkel. Carl Christopher Stacy.
After calling nearly 20 witnesses over the course of 3 days, the state rests its case.
Thank you, sir. You may step down.
And now it's time for the defense to take its turn. All kinds of options here. They could introduce evidence, they could call witnesses, or they could put James Addy himself on the stand. Instead, they do none of the above.
James Addy does not testify. In fact, as sometimes happens, the defense calls no witnesses at all.
Not putting up a case for the defense is fairly common because the argument is it's the state's burden to prove something beyond a reasonable doubt.
And I am confident that you will return the verdicts of guilty.
Once my client puts a witness on the stand, now we're in competition for who is more likable, for who do we believe more. You lose the state's burden and you take on a burden yourself. Your doubts are reasonable. Your doubts are reasonable because Jim did not kill Molly.
James Addy's defense team took the stance of the state is expecting you to connect the dots, and that's not your job as jurors.
Because the evidence will show that the state does not have proof beyond a reasonable doubt.
They attempted to raise enough reasonable doubt about the things that weren't there. There was no murder weapon. What would be the motive of a man in love killing his fiancée?
He was in love with Molly, was the defense, and he was having an affair, but that didn't necessarily mean that he was the killer.
Ladies and gentlemen, the defendant had a choice to make. And the evidence in this case shows us that this is the life he did not choose.
Closing arguments in this case ended up being on what would have been James and Molly's 3-year anniversary.
Molly Watson does not get to celebrate her 3-year wedding anniversary today, but you have the power to give her justice.
The most anticipated time for any jury trial is the reading of the verdict. Here, the jury deliberated about 2.5 hours the fate of James Addy and announced they had reached a unanimous decision.
All right, then. My understanding the jury has reached a verdict. Do I have a foreperson? Yes, sir.
When the jury walked in, like 5 of the jury members looked at us. Like they glanced over, and I thought, okay, I don't know if this is a good sign or not.
Verdict reads as follows. As to count 1, we, the jury, find the defendant, James Addy, guilty of murder in the first degree as submitted in instruction number 6.
The jury found James Addy guilty of first-degree murder in the death of Molly Watson and armed criminal action.
Oh, I was happy. I was so happy to hear that because my sister got justice, my mom and dad got justice.
Did you feel that your husband should have been found guilty of murder?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Is he a killer?
Apparently.
You asked me earlier what I was surprised at during the trial.
During the entire course of the trial, he failed to represent anything that I brought forward, sir.
Up until this point, James Addy has fully exercised his right to remain silent throughout the trial, but now he's ready to open up and give the court his version of what he says really happened.
Jim took the opportunity to really lay out how he felt about this case.
There was no way that I could have done this crime.
And he's going to point to someone he says is the true killer.
Thank you, and have a seat.
We're here today on 18AC-CR01983, State versus James Addy. Matter comes on today for final disposition.
2 months after his conviction, James Addy is formally sentenced.
Mr. Addy, having been convicted by a jury of your peers of the charge of murder in the first degree, I hereby sentence you to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, that being the sentence mandated by law.
Once sentencing is over, the judge wants to hear from Addy.
Anyone expecting regrets or remorse is in for quite a surprise.
Normally, criminal defendants keep their mouths shut, they say yes when they're supposed to, and they move on their way to get their appeal going.
Addy has plenty to say, beginning by reading a love letter to the woman he's convicted of killing.
Molly was the love of my life.
Addy insists that Molly was the love of his life. He says he misses her terribly and would have done anything to keep her happy. Addy is now asking for a new trial. He's complaining to the judge that his defense counsel was ineffective.
During the entire course of the trial, he failed to represent anything that I brought forward.
Jim honestly let his defense attorney have it. He said that he did not think that TJ did a great job.
Can you give me an idea of what kind of stuff you wanted him to bring forward?
Cell phone records, Facebook posts that were in discovery that showed motive that somebody else would.
Molly had an ex who, according to him, had stalked her, very much so had a motive to do harm to Molly as her wedding was approaching.
We reviewed all of the evidence collected during this investigation and presented the relevant admissible evidence at trial, and there was no evidence of any other person with a direct connection to Molly Watson's death.
That evidence pointed to one person, James Addy, who had the motive, means, and opportunity to take Molly Watson's life.
It was the sins of the heart, I would say. He should have been a man enough to just say, I did that, and I'm sorry. It's just terrible that damn it. I just wish he wouldn't have done that.
I would like to see him and ask him, what were you thinking? Why did you do this to us? Why did you do this to you?
You don't see yourself as a victim?
Not at all. Molly's the victim. She's not here. She lost her life.
It's so funny because here just a couple of days ago at work, I'm a mechanic and we have our bay doors open, and out of the blue, this balloon came right up to me and it says, "We love you, we miss you," and that was my mom, dad, and Molly telling me, "Hey, we're watching you." So it definitely felt good.
You just think of the lyrics of that song that Molly loved so much from the movie Tangled.
Bring back what once was mine, what once was mine.
I begged her for an ounce of her strength so that I could put one foot in front of the other.
Tonight, on an all-new 2020, an unbreakable bond between mother and daughter, but someone came between them.
He's like, "Mom's dead," and he just kept repeating, "Mom's dead, Mom's dead."
I ran downstairs and was hysterical and started vomiting.
She was found laying right here.
And I said, "Well, you can go right over there because that's the person that killed my mom."
But just who was she pointing at?
This is a delicate question, whether somebody that she was having an affair with could have had her killed.
He started thinking about ways to engage his exit strategy.
To get rid of her.
To get rid of her.
Hold on, he's coming out. Tonight, a daughter's discovery of family secrets and scandals leading to a dramatic showdown. Drop the gun! Drop the gun!
Behind the scenes, Kim was nonstop digging for answers, getting proof.
Now we're taking you inside her obsessed 6-year crusade to catch the killer.
What kind of crimes?
You're talking murder.
2020 tonight going into a dangerous underworld no one could have imagined.
Drugs and a lot of money. Inevitably a murder of April Kaufman.
Before this hour is over, there will be another shocking death. But is that the end of the story?
This is my life, and I feel like this is the worst made-for-TV movie on the planet.
Good evening, I'm Amy Robach.
And I'm David Muir, and this is 2020. And here tonight, Deborah Roberts.
WIBG, it's the talk of South Jersey.
Driving the corridor between Atlantic City and Philadelphia weekdays between the hours of 2 and 4, you may have heard this voice on WIBG FM.
If you don't vote, I will find out I'm going to your house. I'm dragging you outside.
That's the no-nonsense April Kaufman, a peppery, provocative radio host.
I love being here to bring you the truth. As unvarnished, as unpretty, unbuttered on the biscuit it is.
Tackling topics from politics, caring for U.S. vets.
Homelessness is a big issue in our country right now for our veterans.
Listeners couldn't get enough of the Jersey girl with the platinum hair, big smile, and high wattage personality.
She was like a whirlwind. Like, she would come in and she would make a lasting impression on everyone.
In her upscale town of Linwood, New Jersey, not far from the boardwalk, April and husband Dr. Jim Kaufman, a prominent endocrinologist, are the community's consummate power couple.
The two of them were well known individually as well as together. They really wanted to be involved in the community, but they also like to have some fun.
Every day, the doctor and Mrs. Kaufman had a familiar routine. Jim heading to his medical practice before sunrise, and then a standing phone call with April at 8:30 a.m. But on Thursday, May 10th, 2012, that call to April goes unanswered. And after several failed attempts, Dr. Kaufman sends over his handyman to their home on Woodstock Drive, where he discovers a horror.
911, where's your emergency?
Yes, I have my bosses down. She's lying on the floor in her bedroom and not answering.
Okay, where are you, sir?
2 Woodstock Drive, Linwood.
Okay, hold on, I'm transferring.
47-year-old April Kaufman found dead on the floor of her bedroom. With the family handyman on with 911, Jim calls Linwood police.
This is Dr. Kaufman. I just got called by my house person that my wife is face down on the floor.
My partner's sending out the ambulance as we speak.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm getting there as fast as I can.
Detective James Scopa took me inside the home where the wealthy socialite who once lived larger than life was discovered dead, shot multiple times.
She was found laying right here.
Face down.
Face down.
As the media got there and they started to realize who it was, that's when they knew, okay, this is really a story. It was chaos.
As the steady whir of helicopter blades begins swarming the sky, Jim Kaufman makes another phone call, this one to stepdaughter Kim Pack.
I answer the phone and I say hello, and he's like, Kimberly? And I said yes. He's like, Mom's dead. And he just kept repeating, Mom's dead, over and over. And as I got to the front door, there was a police officer that put his hands out, and I pushed his hands away. And I go, where's my mom? Where's my mom? What is happening here? I need to see my mother. He said, we think this is a potential homicide.
No one could imagine who would have shot April Kaufman. Beautiful, blonde, glamorous, and she was fun. No one had any idea what was going on behind those closed doors.
She made everybody feel like they were her best friend. Didn't matter who they were, the checkout, the parking lot cart guy, you know, hey beautiful, hey handsome, how you doing today?
Friends Peg O'Boyle and Lee Darby knew April since she was a teenager and knew her well enough to know that her outward glow masked an inner pain.
She had a really rough childhood. When April was 11. Her mother gave her brothers and sister up for adoption, and April was raised by her grandmother, and her brothers and sister were put into foster care.
You know, I think she had her thirst for being, you know, feeling loved. She just wanted to be loved.
She would discover unconditional love at 17 when she gave birth to Kim with her first husband.
She was an incredible mom. She seemed to just instinctively know what to do.
She always spoke to Kimberly like a little adult, and we used to call her Agnes, Agnes Beeswax, because she was this little old soul. April just wanted the best for her and gave her the best that she possibly could. You know, she worked hard.
April dropped out of school when she became pregnant, but she got her GED. She clawed her way back. She opened a salon, a catering business, a cafe, a charity worker.
But while April worked hard, she played hard too.
She liked motorcycles and fast cars? She did. When she got her first motorcycle, she said, I'll give you $300 to get on the back of my motorcycle. And I was like, no way. My feet are on the ground. And she would be like, all right, $500. And I'm like, no, I'm not getting on the back of your motorcycle. Just the need for speed, and wasn't afraid.
After 2 failed marriages, she meets Dr. Jim Kaufman. Friends and family say the wild child finally had found her match.
He drives a Harley, he's smoking cigars, he's a Green Beret in the military, a doctor.
In fact, this caricature sketched for Jim's 60th birthday seems to sum up the couple's life. There's April, the buxom Jersey girl, overshadowed by her larger-than-life new husband, who's prominently depicted with a gun, big cigar, and something else, military tattoos. Impressed, she asked her stepdad to be the subject of a college project. He agreed to be interviewed with some conditions.
There were 2 rules to this interview. 1, you can never ask my mother about this, anything pertaining to this interview. And 2, you have to destroy the tape when you're finished.
That's a little mysterious.
Yeah, but you know, I just thought out of respect, this is what he's asking. He talks about how the Viet Cong had ambushed his camp, stabbed him, but also stabbed and left all of his comrades and left them for dead. And his sole mission, he had said, was to grab these dog tags and bring these dog tags to these people's families so that they know what happened to their boys.
That's an amazing story.
Yes.
It's no wonder April was motivated to mount a campaign, using her radio voice to demand quality health care for veterans.
This was such a big issue that affected our veterans and our state, our country. So I will thank my husband for a lot of the things that I've learned over the years.
April felt that veterans should be treated like rock stars.
So how did this fierce and loved advocate for casualties of war become a casualty herself? Kim has an idea and approaches investigators with a shocking declaration.
As I made my way out into the cul-de-sac, I look up in the air, and there's all these news choppers flying up above. And I said, well, you can go right over there, because that's the person that killed my mom's
daughter, Kim.
I miss her calling me nonstop, all the time. I miss her laugh. I miss her smile. I miss her infinite wisdom, because she really was my rock.
After the mourning came the murmuring. Sometimes talk is cheap, even in wealthy towns.
This is a delicate question, but there were questions about whether your mom was having affairs.
You know, they had a very unhealthy relationship, the both of them. And I will just say that there were indiscretions on both sides of the fence. And I'll leave it at that.
Did it concern you that maybe somebody that she had been involved with could have killed her?
No, but I certainly provided those people's names to the police, and I allowed them to do their due diligence.
While the community is in shock and awash in rumor and innuendo, listen to this, April's final radio broadcast, where she sounds like a woman who thinks her days are numbered.
And my bottom line is, if nothing else, of my legacy of leaving, a really beautiful daughter and 2 grandchildren on this planet, I really hope to God that people, hey, I could get a flyover at my funeral now.
You listen back to that and you think, did she have a premonition? It's kind of like she was trying to tell us something, I believe.
In those early days after her mom's death, there's one thing gnawing at Kim. One person she's curiously not getting consolation from? Her stepdad, Dr. Jim Kaufman.
Dr. James Kaufman was a very well-respected and well-regarded member of this community. But to Kim, stepfather Jim was a very different person.
He was very cold to me, always kept me at an arm's length.
Literally. Just look at the pained body language in this video taken on Kim's wedding day.
1, 2, and 3. Here we go.
Take a close look. He steps into the scene. He smiles one time for the camera to flash. Then he goes back to a very taciturn demeanor and steps out. No hugging, no kissing, no warmth, nothing.
You would be in the dining room, I would be talking to my mom, and he would come and turn the lights off and just walk out of the room.
He controlled her cash flow and
oh, yes.
how much money she could spend?
Oh, yes. And sometimes even calling her, who are you with? Where are you?
And just 2 months before April's murder, it seems the bloom was officially off the rose of her nearly 10-year marriage. Kim recalling a lunch where her mother confides she's had enough.
She talked about that she really needed to start aligning herself and getting herself in a good spot to be able to leave. I think that he had made it clear to her that she wasn't going to divorce him and take half of his empire. That was his famous words.
Did you get any feeling that your mom might have been in any kind of danger?
She had made it clear over the years that he had threatened to kill her several times, but would always follow up with, he doesn't have the guts to do it.
Though Jim is not named a suspect, some might say he begins acting like one.
Within days of April's body being found, Jim hires a lawyer.
Not only a lawyer, but the lawyer, a mob lawyer.
Ed Jacobs, one of the biggest legal names in Atlantic County. He's even defended Bill Cosby in one of his sex assault accusations.
He loves defending high-profile criminal cases. His walls in his office are covered with news clips of himself.
One possible reason he's not named a suspect? He's got an airtight alibi. That's him entering a local convenience store around the same time his wife is being gunned down.
Authorities are not releasing details, but it appears that Kaufman's shooting death was not random.
I meet him in a restaurant, and he says to me, let me tell you something. I have a very good attorney, and I'd been advised to not speak to anybody about this. He's like, you might need to really start to realize that this is never going to be solved. And I said, well, I'm not going to realize that. I said, because I will never stop finding out. And I walked away, and I never spoke to him ever again.
As the months drag on, Kim says the only cold shoulder icier than Jim's is the one she's getting from then Atlantic County prosecutor Jim McClain.
I had several meetings with him, and he would just say it was active and open and not really say much more.
Did you get the impression that he was determined to get to the bottom of this?
No.
Then, on the one-year anniversary of April's murder, many turn out for a candlelight vigil, including so many vets she'd made her cause. Noticeably absent, Dr. Jim Kaufman. He marks the milestone another way.
We discovered that he was getting ready to auction off all of April's belongings and hadn't given anything to Kim.
How crushing was that for you?
Beyond, because the things that I asked for that belonged to my mother were family heirlooms or possibly Disney coffee mugs.
With her mother and all those mementos lost, Kim tries to adjust to a new normal while raising her 2 young sons and holding down her job as a pharmaceutical sales rep.
Marching through every single day, waking up with another day of hopelessness while trying to keep that glimmer of hope alive is a very tricky thing to do.
Yet while life for Kim seems hopelessly on pause, for Jim Kaufman, it's full speed ahead. Just 15 months after his wife's murder, he ties the knot again.
He remarries Carol Weintraub. When did that start? Now, the version we've gotten is that they started dating after April was found murdered. Now that's some romance.
April's friends and family were devastated, and they felt like it was a slap in the face, but the people who support Jim Kaufman say, you know, he's a widow, and he's moving on with his life.
But Dr. Kaufman's next move sets off a chain of events that pushes Kim out of limbo.
He went after my mom's life insurance policy.
And your reaction?
No way. Because you know what? This is my only attempt to maybe be able to get some answers, and the truth maybe would start to come out.
Now it's Kim's turn to lawyer up. Believing Jim is the killer, she files a wrongful death suit against her stepdad to keep him from getting her mom's $600,000 life insurance policy.
I have no choice to respond and to begin to fight for what I know is right.
The most significant kind of civil lawsuit you can have is a wrongful death case.
Coming up, a daughter undaunted, and the dynamic duo attorneys she hires begin digging into the case, and what they say they uncover is shocking.
We were talking to people that were critical witnesses to us that had not spoken to the prosecutor's office.
And their chance to grill the grieving good doctor.
He was under oath in a civil deposition. They could ask him anything.
Next. Atlantic City, legendary for its slots, signature shows, and of course, this moment. But the boom and the bust of the casino industry has made America's favorite playground a hotbed for crime, corruption, and a startling number of unsolved cases. Cases like April Kaufman's, but Kim Pack and her dogged attorneys, Patrick and Andrew Darcy, drill down, determined to get answers.
Behind the scenes, Kim, with us, was nonstop digging for answers, getting proof. We were on an island, all on our own.
But the tide may be turning.
I grew up on the beaches and the boardwalk of Atlantic City, and I always say I have sand in my shoes.
Meet Damon Tyner, son of one of Atlantic City's fabled firefighters and a longtime cop.
Your dad was a bit of a legend.
Yeah, he was very well known throughout the community.
But the younger Tyner made a name for himself as a Superior Court judge.
Good to see you. How you making out? So they named a pizza for me.
I think right here.
Yep, that would be me.
And then last year,
I, Damon G. Tyner,
became the first black prosecutor in the county's history.
So help me God.
Many seeing him as the city's much-needed savior.
You're doing a good job, man.
I appreciate it.
Great job.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
You doing? You all right?
I know, I'm not judge anymore.
Good to see you.
That man's cleaning up AC.
There you go.
You took a pledge when you took the office. Tell me about the pledge.
Dating back to 1970, there are about 140 unsolved homicides. I urged my executive staff to tell me which cases were most solvable. Unanimously, they all came back to me and said, the murder of April Kaufman.
But Tyner is sworn in almost 5 years after April Kaufman's murder. 5 long years.
A lot of people wondered why 5 years passed and no recognizable work had been done.
It wasn't that there were glaring mistakes. It was just an omission of effort, you might say.
We wondered about that and tried asking former prosecutor Jim McClain about the investigation. His spokesperson tells 2020 McClain has no comment.
Fortunately, Damon Tyner became prosecutor, and his team came to the conclusion that this case should be prosecuted. For the first time, someone's listening here.
Tyner agreed to meet Kim Pack and her lawyers within that first month.
What did that mean to you?
The fact that I was lucky enough for him to say, I'm going to take a second look at this. Me, my case, thank you. Like, this is all I've been asking for this entire time, is for someone to care.
It took 3 hours for Kim's lawyers to unpack all they had uncovered.
You should take a look at these records.
But no evidence as compelling or illuminating as this.
Today's July the 11th, 2014.
A 4.5-hour-long video deposition of Dr. Jim Kaufman himself, finally talking for that wrongful death lawsuit Kim has filed.
Basically, I ask the questions, you give the answers. Understood?
Yes.
4.5 hours under oath is a lot of time. It's a lot of questions.
I do. Okay. We may proceed.
That was the first time he could be compelled to talk.
There he is in the hot seat for the very first time, getting grilled on everything from his love of guns.
How many guns do you own?
Approximately 18.
to the moment he first saw his wife lying lifeless on the floor.
I ran upstairs. I looked inside and unfortunately saw April lying there. And she wasn't moving, and she had a pallor, which I've known after 30 years is obviously someone has passed away. And I ran downstairs and went out on the lawn and was hysterical and started vomiting.
Okay, do you have tissues, by the way?
I got
Do you need to break?
When I look at a deposition, I sometimes turn the sound down. I don't want to hear what they're saying. I want to see what they look like and what their facial expressions are. He struck me as a manipulative guy.
But there's a barrel-sized bombshell about to drop. The doctor's casual and stunning admission about a secret he's been keeping for years. Seems that time he spent in the Special Forces wasn't so special.
Have you ever served in any branch of the military?
No.
That's right, Dr. Kaufman forced to come clean about his so-called stellar military record. Those Purple Hearts, those sharpshooter medals, all lies.
Did you ever tell Kim Pack you were in the military?
Yes.
Okay. Did she ever do a project for college, and part of the project was you being in the military?
Yes.
And what you went through?
Yes.
And that you carried bodies?
Yes.
And the torture that you had gone through?
Yes.
Did you ever tell anyone that you were a Green Beret?
Yes.
Who'd you tell?
I don't recall how many people I told.
So he created this background that didn't even really exist.
That is correct. Once you start examining someone who is bold enough to engage in stolen valor, you start realizing that there are other aspects to this man's life that would require us to investigate.
But in that deposition, Dr. Kaufman posits his own theories about who may have killed his wife.
Who do you think did it?
I thought it could be someone who was one of the veterans. The last choice was that it was someone in a motorcycle gang.
What motorcycle gang?
The Pagans.
The pagan motorcycle gang? Remember, April had a penchant for motorcycles. Could that mean she was in deep with the kind of people known for violent behavior?
The pagan outlaws are the equivalent of the Hell's Angels. They are felons of the most dangerous sort.
Coming up, a stunning turn in the Kaufman case.
No, I'm killing myself.
Leading to a standoff in the Garden State.
Drop the gun! No, I'm not going to jail for this.
Put the weapon down.
No!
Stay with us.
At the Final Four, and smiling, and I'd put it on my brother's screen so that when he came in the morning, that would be the first thing he'd see is a picture of Jim Kaufman saying, yeah, so what? I killed her. What are you going to do about it?
But there's an unexpected canary in Kaufman's coal mine. It's coming in the form of a tip from the FBI. The feds believe Kaufman may be involved in another unrelated crime.
Lo and behold, another investigation related to insurance fraud, his role as a doctor, comes up.
Investigators get a warrant to search his office.
So they show up at Kaufman's clinic just to look at his records.
On June 13th, 2017, we attempted to serve a search warrant at Dr. Kaufman's office here.
Within minutes, it's clear this will not be a routine visit.
Detective Scope at the prosecutor's office under the last week. Stay right here for me. Keep your names off down there. No.
What does he do instead of ushering them in as most of us would with the feds? No, he grabs a 9mm Ruger.
A police body cam captures it all. You can see and hear him refusing to let authorities inside.
I have one at gunpoint, Dr. James Kaufman. He has a weapon.
Drop the gun! Drop the gun!
For 45 minutes, there's a heart-pounding standoff.
Drop the gun!
At one point, Dr. Kaufman threatening to take his life.
I'm going to kill myself.
It sure seems like Jim thinks they're there in connection with April's murder.
Listen, let's talk. I'm not going to jail for this.
We got movement.
Finally, a hostage negotiator gets the disgraced doctor to surrender.
Dr. Kaufman, please step out to the curb. Now, slowly.
watch the building to make sure there's no one else still inside.
This video changes everything.
The husband of a murdered South Jersey radio host and advocate is behind bars following an early morning standoff.
Investigators say that same day they seized more weapons from Kaufman and at least $100,000 in cash.
That was a game changer.
After the standoff with Jim Kaufman, he goes to jail, not for murder, but for weapons charges. He fights to try to get out. The judge would not let him out based on his conduct, and that gives the new prosecutor, Tyner, a chance to really dig into the murder case.
Starting with the crime scene.
So this is the house here. The bedroom that April was found was upstairs.
But the biggest break in the case doesn't come from inside this house at all.
We knew Dr. Kaufman that there was a point in time that he was inquiring about having her killed. And
how'd you find that out?
We were able to get a witness to cooperate with us this past November. That broke the case.
And who was that witness? A former member of the Pagans Motorcycle Club. Remember them? They're the ones Dr. Kaufman had pointed the finger at in his deposition.
The last choice was that it was someone in a motorcycle gang.
What motorcycle gang?
The Pagans.
But now the tables have turned. One of those pagans ratting out Kaufman, and not just for murder. Prosecutor Tyner on January 9th, 2018.
Hey, Sergeant. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Damon G. Tyner.
At a press conference, Tyner lays out the case of an elaborate and secret double life that Dr. Jim Kaufman was leading. Treating patients by day, writing fraudulent opioid prescriptions for those pagans by night.
They would come in and be patients, and all of a sudden you had a prominent endocrinologist that was prescribing opioids and all kinds of other painkillers when that wasn't quite his practice.
So he's got the power of the prescription, and then they've got the gang activity.
Essentially, they were flooding the market with opioids and selling them at a marked up price.
What a bombshell. This straight-laced doctor that everyone had respected was part of a pill mill, a drug ring. And not only that, with the pagan outlaw motorcycle gang. And April Kaufman found out.
Found out and, according to Tyner, threatened to expose his secret seedy double life.
He started thinking about ways to engage his exit strategy.
To get rid of her.
To get rid of her.
For the past 5.5 years since April Kaufman was found shot to death, there's been little movement on this case, and no arrests had been made in connection with the murder. That is until today.
An explosive breakthrough in the murder of radio host April Kaufman.
Murder charges just filed against Dr. James Kaufman in a plot that police say involved members of a motorcycle gang.
But wait a minute, didn't the doctor have an airtight alibi? Remember that early morning stop at a convenience store? Tyner says Kaufman wasn't the shooter, that he paid one of those pagans roughly $20,000 to do his dirty work and kill his wife.
He went inside and he shot April Kaufman twice.
And ironically, that alleged hitman died a year and a half after April's murder of an opiate overdose. His pills prescribed by, you guessed it, Dr. Jim Kaufman.
When I heard the details of everything, it really, really was unbelievable. I feel like this is the worst made-for-TV movie on the planet.
The prosecutor worries Dr. Kaufman could be targeted by pagan members in jail, so they move him upstate to the Hudson County Correctional Facility as they begin gearing up for their first major trial. Finally, a chance to close one of those Atlantic County cold cases. But then, another shocking turn.
Dr. James Kaufman dead. Officials with the Hudson County Correctional Facility confirmed that he died at 9:20 this morning.
What was your reaction when you heard this?
I was stunned.
This story started off terrible and is ending terrible.
Dr. Jim Kaufman dead. But how?
Were you worried that he could be hurt in prison?
That's always a concern.
Will justice ever be served? Stay with us. It's been a long, strange trip for Dr. Jim Kaufman, from a plush suburban cul-de-sac to the Hudson County Jail. His new home, a 6 by 9 foot cell like this.
This is unit.
This is Charlie 500 East. Maximum security.
The inmates, many considered violent and dangerous, were Dr. Kaufman's new neighbors as he awaited his trial in a facility just across the river from New York City.
What kind of crimes?
You're talking murder.
It's rare to get a look inside these tight quarters unless you're an inmate, but corrections officers agreed to take us in, recalling that fateful morning. Just after serving Dr. Kaufman breakfast, they made a grim discovery. The doctor was dead, hanging himself with a laundry cord.
I was stunned, but that's, in retrospect, that's what convinces me now more than ever that he understood that the end was near.
He realized it had all caught up with him.
Yes, I think so.
Bottom line, he had his wife murdered, and the only way out for him was suicide.
Kaufman did leave something behind in that jail cell. This note obtained by 2020.
Even in that jail cell, when he killed himself, he had to write this very lengthy suicide note to be in control at the very end, to get the last word.
Kaufman adamant that he didn't kill April.
I cannot live like this. No matter what anybody says, did not do anything to my wife.
This 6-page suicide note is bizarre.
Throughout the note, he quotes Latin, including phrases that Roman gladiators would say to the emperor before they fought in the Colosseum. Really?
His final words do add a surprisingly new angle to the sordid saga.
April came to me and said, would I like to go to a motorcycle rally to meet some of her friends? I was slightly shocked, to say the least, that they had the colors of pagans.
The most important thing that Jim Kaufman wants people to take away from this note is, I didn't kill April. She introduced me to this outlaw gang. I was prescribing pills. They then got aggressive with me. They then started threatening me. And they're the ones who killed April.
Were you able to determine whether April had any involvement with either the gang or the pill mill?
Our investigation at the time did not lead us to believe that she had any involvement. I believe that at some point she became aware of it. I think ultimately that's the reason why she was killed.
But dead men tell no tales, at least not in court. And with both that alleged hitman and Jim Kaufman deceased, Tyner's last call for justice rests with the case he's building against the accused pagan ringleader, who he believes conspired with Kaufman to kill April. He's pled not guilty.
There is an aspect of the investigation that's continuing with a defendant who is still pending trial. So I won't disclose too much about that part of the investigation, but suffice it to say that we were convinced that Jim Kaufman's involvement in this matter was enough to charge him with conspiracy to commit murder.
Is there any doubt in your mind that her husband wanted her dead?
There's no doubt in my mind.
A painful conclusion for a grieving daughter, yet a measure of solace. Kim Pack may finally find the justice she's been seeking for years.
Why do you think this case wasn't solved 6 years ago?
I don't know. That's the million-dollar question. But what I do know is that I was blessed and granted the ability to have peace in my life for the first time in 6 years by a man with determination and that believed in my story. And that is Damon Tyner. And I am forever grateful to that man.
Although in a tale as twisted and tragic as this, there's hardly any true closure.
And that's the saddest part of this entire story. Her mom's still not coming back. And when everything's quiet and it's just Kim and she's alone and she's thinking, her best friend's gone.
We were robbed. And for what? I still don't have the answer to that. For what?
When we come back, one of those precious family heirlooms sold at auction has been recovered. The secret message from beyond the grave found inside, next. Kim Pack doesn't just resemble her mom, she's inherited the same passion that made April Kaufman so beloved.
She's like a pit bull.
She is.
She latches on and she's not letting go until she gets what she's looking for.
She's a mini April.
There's been dark days, very dark days, where I just didn't know how I was going to do this. But I knew that I needed to stand up. This story needed to be told.
But in that darkness, something special. Remember when Jim sold off all of April's belongings? Turns out Lee Darby and Peg O'Boyle, dubbing themselves April's Angels, swooped in.
These women got together and they were on the phone calling people, raising money to be able to buy back things that belonged to my mother.
So that's how you got the last remnants of your mom's things?
Yes, and my mom collected these little Limoges things, and this was the first item that I touched from the auction. And inside this note, it says, "To Kimberly, from Mom. Whenever you look at this, you know you're always loved. You're so special. Best wishes for the rest of your life."
And you had no idea that note was there?
No, and I feel like this was meant to be. I feel like I was meant to have this. I keep this by my bed. It reminds me that my mom is with me all the time.
Out in the community, other reminders.
My husband and my boys got this bench dedicated for her. It's special because it's a spot that we stop and my kids will bring up a memory or they will talk about her.
And if Mom could say just one more thing to her daughter?
I think she would say to me now, you can breathe, you can go on and live, you don't have to be sad anymore. And thank you for fighting.
बाग बहारां जिथे गुल गुल जारां जिथे बाग बहारां जिथे गुल गुल जारां जिथे जन्नत नी तस्वीर देश माड़ा कश्मीर सोना देश माड़ा कश्मीर देश माड़ा कश्मीर सोना देश माड़ा कश्मीर खुद एक कमाल कुछ है इसनी मिसाल कुछ है खुद एक कमाल कुछ है इसनी मिसाल कुछ है बेमिसलो बेनज़ीर देश माड़ा कश्मीर सोना देश माड़ा कश्मीर देश माड़ा कश्मीर सोना देश माड़ा कश्मीर पहाड़ा वाला घने चनारा वाला ऊंचे पहाड़ा वाला घने चनारा वाला ठंडिया हवा वाला रंगली फसावा वाला हुस्न भरी जागीर देश माड़ा कश्मीर सोना देश माड़ा कश्मीर देश माड़ा कश्मीर सोना देश माड़ा कश्मीर मिठे मिठे गीत गाने पंछी परी तालाने मिठे मिठे गीत जाने पंछी परी ताला ने खुलियां फजावां विच जिसनियां चावां विच होवे दिल असीर देस माड़ा कश्मीर सोना देस माड़ा कश्मीर देस माड़ा कश्मीर सोना देस माड़ा कश्मीर जइयां सूरतां ने वफानियां मूरतां ने फुल्लां जइयां सूरतां ने वफानियां मूरतां ने जाई जाई जागतां ने जिसनियां शोरतां ने लोको आलमगीर देस माड़ा कश्मीर सोना देस माड़ा कश्मीर देस माड़ा कश्मीर सोना देस माड़ा कश्मीर वतना तू दूर हो बड़े मजबूर हो वतना तू दूर हो बड़े मजबूर हो याद जदों